But
right?
also the problem
and I've gone into a hotel around the corner.
The problem is, Mike, is they come up with these schemes to like help hospitality and help business, and my response is, well, maybe you shouldn't have taxed them in the sodding first place. How about that, folks? Instead of then using the money you've just taken off them to help them out, it's completely ridiculous.
I don't know if you saw, so they raised the minimum wage and then they realised, hang on, when you raise the price of hiring someone, businesses do either three things. They stop hiring, they decrease hours, or they increase prices. So they found that youth unemployment has increased. So what do? We're putting £300 million to combat youth unemployment. Mate, just don't,
you are the
don't
reason
make it
for
more
the youth
expensive to hire them.
Yeah, well, one of my sons who's here does some work in a similar auspicious place like this up in Manchester, and as soon as they up the minimum wage and up the national insurance, they cut his hours.
Yeah, precisely.
So now he makes less money.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't magically create growth and wage increase.
So I've had to hire him to work here tonight.
But the problem
because
is, Mike, is apparently minimum wage is not high enough. It needs to be £15, as the Green Party would say. I mean, they want mass youth unemployment. You know, I remember getting my first job when I was like 15, 16, and I was paid about £4 something an hour. But guess what? I wasn't there forever, because you grow up, you gain experience, you gain skills, you move up on the ladder, and that's always been accepted. But unfortunately, it seems that their only response to this is just, we need more government intervention, without realising that the reason all of these problems are happening, folks, is because of government intervention in the first place.
What was your first job, William?
My first job, I was working in a rugby club. I played rugby back in the olden days when I was still in Hounslow.
Did you say a rubber club?
A rugby club.
Oh, rugby club.
Not a rugby. That's a different thing entirely.
Club.
That's my weekend job. No, I worked in a rugby club. I cleaned toilets. I helped set up the pitch. I was a ball boy. I did the scores, and I wasn't paid all that much money. But you know what? It was a damn good job to start off with. And, it taught me, getting out of bed on Saturday morning, working hard, doing a bit, And back then, guys, that was a lot of money for me. I look back and think, £25? Yeah, I spent that about 5 minutes ago at the pub. It's all disappeared.
You know what I found outrageous? Who remembers 99? When it was actually 99, so it's still called 99, but it's £3.99.
£3.99, yeah.
What the hell is that about? Yeah, I remember when £4 used to go somewhere.
Yeah, £4 used to go somewhere. And that's because of endless government borrowing, inflationary government policies, and quantitative easing, which no one ever wants to talk about, which Zach Polaski doesn't know what that is, by the way, and yet complains when, assets are so expensive and people can't afford houses. Like, yeah, because of the kind of borrowing and spending policies you believe in, you moron. But
yeah. Now, listen, William, we're going to wrap this up in a second because we've got so much going on tonight, but I can't let you go without hearing your Keir Starmer impression, which he's been working on it for a long time, right? And
show us!
I'll tell you what, he's really good at it now.
Well, Mike, let me be absolutely clear. I'm abiding, let me finish. I'm abiding by the rules of international law and British values. And we're gonna win. No, I got into motion. We're gonna win big, folks. It's gonna be huge. I don't know how Keir Starmer moved into Trump, and I'm not sure how that works.
Isn't that great?
Very good.
Very good.
They just pull that out now. I don't know how I started doing it. I just started having like little tics and doing the Keir Starmer impression. To the extent that now if I do the Keir Starmer impression, they pull up the Starmer alert.
The Starmer alert. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Well, listen, guys, thank you so much for coming. Good luck tomorrow, Layla.
Thank you.
I think everyone here wants you to win. And I know it's not you personally, but, you collectively, have got to do this country a favour, take it over and fix it. Please?
The problem is, Mike, and I'll end on this, is that a patriot like Nigel, or like myself, or like you, we always ask what's best for Britain. Globalist always asks, what can we do for the world to see us better? And they're very two different questions. And it's about time that the patriots ran this country.
Yep, absolutely right. Well said. Well said.
And just to end on as well, Mike, I mean, we've known each other for a few years now, and you've always been a big supporter of myself and my career, and I recently got promoted to the Taxpayers Alliance, if people don't know, which is very exciting. The Taxpayers Alliance got promoted, which is very exciting. And Mike's been an absolute legend, and when I heard he was doing this new show, I was one of the first people to come over and see it before I'd even to the studio, and I wanted to say a huge thank you to you for your big support over the last few years, but also a huge congratulations on what you've created here. It's genuinely amazing.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
This is what grassroots looks like.
Yeah, it does.
You're not backed by anyone.
No.
This is the grassroots. This is London.
No.
This is the country.
In fact, not only am I not backed by anyone, quite a lot of people tried to stop me from doing it, so, Well, we don't listen to those people. But guys, Layla, thank you very much indeed. William Yarwood, thank you so much.
Good morning and welcome to the Mike Graham Show. I'm hearing a bit of an echo.
Oh man, hold on.
What are you doing?
Messing up, obviously.
He's messing up. Pooch is so excited about the live show that you've just been watching there with big Willie Yarwood, as he's now known. That sounds better. Have we fixed it?
No, I've just taken you off, but I will sort it. Go on.
All right. Are we back?
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome to the Mike Graham Show. It's 7:02, and we've got a bit of an echo going on there. William Yarwood is here. Very good morning to you, William. Because of it's actually his fault because he came in and Pooch was so proud of the fact that we've got a really, really good recording of the live event. He thought he'd play that to him, right? Hey?
Just take your headset out for a second whilst I sort it.
Well, I'm not hearing it.
I can hear Mike twice.
Okay, cool.
I'm not hearing an echo now. I was, but I'm not anymore.
Okay.
So I'm okay.
I'm still hearing.
You're hearing an echo.
I'm hearing to Mike twice.
Are you?
Yeah, I know.
Crikey.
It's like you're in this ear and you're
As
you're in that
Pooch
ear.
often said, two mics not always better than one. Anyway, yeah. So look, if you were enjoying that just before we started the show, that will be available next week. There will be a download that you can watch. There will be a link that you can click on. If you're a member of Substack, you will get a discount for it. If you are a member of our YouTube community, i.e. a YouTube member. I think that's right, isn't it?
Yep.
You will also get a discount. So look out for that because it's a big show. I think it was 2 hours and 20 minutes long. We did the thing for ages, right? And it was a great success. And thank you, William, for coming along to the Shepherd's Empire because it was really good. And we got through an awful lot of things. Now, a couple of major stories to talk about this morning. Of course, it's all about Wes Streeting on the front pages today. Streeting prepares to quit ahead of number 10 challenge in the Times. Front page of the Daily Mail. Streeting to ignite Labour Day of anarchy. Health Secretary to resign and challenge the Prime Minister. Street fighter, it says on the front page of the Sun. Wes to quit and launch leadership bid. Defiant Prime Minister says he must not win. Ed, Andy and Ange to join the battle. So this kind of the psychodrama continues, right? We're sort of bored of it now, aren't we? Almost. And I said yesterday, I don't want to get so bored that I don't care. Because I want to keep putting my foot on his throat and going, get out, just get out, just keep pressing down, But what do you make of it all?
But it's been great fun, I must admit, Mike. I'm having a bit of a fun time, mainly because it's so funny to watch Labour try and do what the Tories are very, very good at doing, which is obviously doing, regicide of their own leader.
Defenestrating their leaders,
But the problem is none of these guys have ever worked in the private sector, so they've never done a hostile takeover in their lives. Right. So therefore, they've actually never been able to actually take over or change anything before. So when the Prime Minister walked into Cabinet just the other day, and, various Cabinet Ministers wanted to ask him about his premiership, and he was like, well, that's not on the agenda.
Yeah.
That's not part of the process.
Yeah,
and just completely ignored the entire thing.
Yeah, that's tomorrow's. Any other business, right?
And I'll talk about
because
Ukraine.
Because actually, what you're absolutely right. Because what they're doing is they're running it like one of those, trade union meetings, aren't
Yes,
they?
it is.
Where you go, no, sorry, brother, that's not on the
comrade.
agenda for today.
Yeah.
It was like, remember that great? You probably for too young to remember, not 9 o'clock news, where they did a thing. They did a skit where it was Rowan Atkinson and that crowd. They did a skit about a union meeting where there was about sort of 10 people sitting around a table, and who wants tea? A couple of hands went up. Who wants coffee? And it was like, well, that's 6 million teas, 4 million coffees, because they just controlled everything. Yeah. And if it wasn't on the agenda, you couldn't talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. And the interesting thing about Starmer also is he just seems so relaxed about it all as well. I mean, he was over with Pat McFadden doing some meeting with a bunch of apprenticeships and stuff, and I've never seen him look so relaxed. He was just low cortisol care, I started calling him. He was just so relaxed, didn't seem to care. He's got 90 MPs out for his blood. He's got various cabinet ministers, including Streeting and former cabinet ministers, out for his blood. And you know what? He's saying, try it, mate. Come on, have a go. And it's so interesting. So he actually thinks
do you think he knows they're all useless?
He thinks he knows they're all useless, but also, second of all, he knows for a fact that he can just pull out the old tricks that he did during the leadership campaign back when he was, running in 2020.
And maybe
he can just do the
you're
old
right.
tricks.
Well, let's play a clip because Pooch was really enamoured with old Starmer this morning. Right? I came in, I was shocked.
Pooch.
Right? Pooch is going. It's a bit like a football team. Once the pressure's off, they know they're not going to win the league, or they know they're not going down, or they know they are going down, and they suddenly start playing better football, right? And there is some truth to that. But I'm shocked to say that Pooch has fallen for this, right? Because he's a fairly clever bloke, and he's not easily swayed by the mores of these politicians. But he's gone, This is the guy we like. You know, this is this Keir Starmer. We actually like this guy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I'm not having it. I'm not having it because I'm sure, like everything else that he's ever done in his life, it is a calculated, act
You think
that
it's a show?
that he's now putting on. Yeah, totally.
It's totally a show.
He's still a miserable, horrible, ghastly individual. His wife still hates him. His kids still hate him. He's still got nowhere to go if he leaves Downing Street because he's rubbish at everything else that he's ever done in his life. And he's a miserable bloke. Do you think he goes to bed at night smiling? No, he goes to bed at night in the sort of fetal position going, you hate me. I don't know why everybody hates me. And everyone shouts, Keir Starmer's a wanker every time I go anywhere. That's the Keir Starmer I know.
Right.
I don't think he's suddenly transformed overnight just because he now thinks he's in the clear. All right, let's play the clip and have a look.
Mr. Speaker, let me also thank the Leader of the Opposition for the usual warm and generous nature of her contribution. In difficult days, her input is always a ray of sunshine. Let me also thank the Leader of the Opposition for the usual warm and generous nature of her contribution. In difficult days, her input is always a ray of sunshine. I particularly getting tips from her on how to win friends. This is from the person, Mr. Speaker, who previously called us orcs and goons. But, Mr. Speaker, I am a gooner, and so, as usual, she is less than half right. But we do have one thing in common. Our parties both had tough results in the local elections last week. The difference is she hasn't noticed. And Mr. Speaker, there's another difference, Mr. Speaker. We are in government and they are no longer even the opposition.
Pooch has definitely gone over to the other side.
He's converted fully.
Next thing, he's going to turn up with some Ukrainian bloke in a car. I don't know what's going on. I know I'm hearing the echo again, by the way. We had a bit of an issue there with the sound on Keir Starmer, but, if that Cooper's smiling, Rachel Reeves is sort of, got a little...
Lammy smiling,
Lammy's
which is
laughing. They're all kind of, enjoying it. What's going on? I refuse to believe that he's suddenly become this charming man.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm not buying it. I am definitely not buying it. I mean, what do you guys think? Let's have a look at what you're saying. He's getting rid of the opposition slowly but surely. Look at the book on the guy's lap behind him. Yeah, we've got a clip on that before. He can't even speak properly without looking down at his notes every second. See, that's a clue. He's looking down at his notes every second. To be fair to the prick, that was amusing, says Mr. Cumbrian. Still a clown, though.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, but the point is this, though. It's not genuine, is it?
No,
it can't be.
I don't think it's genuine. I think someone's had a word with him, but also that I think there is an element of, I think Starmer performs best when he's up against it.
Yeah.
I think
up against what?
Up against his very own fellow Labour members. Yeah. And also I think he knows for a fact that he thinks streeting is just being an egotistical so-and-so.
Well, streeting is an egotistical so-and-so. I don't see any reason why West Streeting should be the front runner. No, why should he be the Prime Minister?
And also, various streeting allies have said Streeting's already bottled it because he didn't go on the Tuesday, right? He decided to then wait, and then the sort of momentum's gone. I know Rayner's back in the picture now because her tax affairs are suddenly miraculously sorted.
Yeah, well, that's another story. That suddenly happened overnight. We've got a clip of her talking to ITV News, I think, last night. Should we have a look at that as well, Pooch, if you got a chance?
Yeah, give me 2 seconds.
I think that one is number...
Can you just tell me what the decision was from HMRC as you understand it?
Well, I welcome HMRC's conclusion and they've said that there wasn't any wrongdoing and...
Just tell me what the decision was from HMRC as you understand it.
Well, I welcome HMRC's conclusion and they've said that there wasn't any wrongdoing and that I didn't try to avoid paying tax or I wasn't careless in the way in which I conducted myself. At the time when I was in government and this came to my attention that there could have been tax owed, I was really shocked about that because I'd taken advice and I've never wanted to avoid paying my tax. And for me, that was the most distressing thing, is that people felt that I was tax dodging or or trying to set up trusts to avoid tax, or being careless by not taking the appropriate advice, and HMRC have concluded that isn't the case.
Did that hurt when that was being bandied around, that you might have done it on purpose?
It did, and it hurt me because I had to then talk about my son and his personal circumstances, which I think, you know, it's not fair on him. He's a young man now, and, you know, it's his history that is not really for me to band around the airwaves. But equally, I didn't want people to think that the person who they know me as, the person who went into politics to fight for people, suddenly dropped all her values and was just on the take. And that's never been me. And I was horrified that that's what the consequences could have been, that I'd done something wrong. And actually, it's a very complex area that is ambiguous within the law. And after getting expert tax advice of people that have been in that field for a very long time, that is shown, and HMRC have concluded that there wasn't any wrongdoing on my behalf.
Yeah, do you know, I bought a house once, right? I didn't employ hordes of tax advisors to go,
Yeah.
do you think I should pay the council tax?
Yeah, right.
Or the stamp duty? What do you think?
Avoid or to
Just
not
pay
avoid,
it,
yeah.
right? I was horrified, she goes. People
I
thought
was
I was a
distressed.
bad person. I was distressed.
And then the interviewer is just like, oh, did that make you feel bad? Or are you okay?
Yeah, what's
How
happened
does
to
that make you
journalism?
feel?
What's happened to
So who
journalism?
gives a damn how it made her feel?
Right? Why didn't you ask her where she found the 40 grand to suddenly stump up and
No.
pay?
Yeah, I know, right?
She got that in the back pocket. You know, oh yeah, I'm a working class girl. Where'd you get the 40,000 from?
Yeah.
You've got it in an ISA, maybe? Have you got it sort of, you know, sitting under the bed? Where's the 40 grand been? all
Where's
this
it
time?
gone?
Yeah. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable.
But-
and for it to all suddenly be sorted.
It's miraculous,
It's
isn't
miraculous,
it? It's
isn't it?
miraculous. And I think that it's funny, what you'll see now is because you're seeing no coalition building between Rayner, Streeting or Burnham at all.
Yeah.
Because they all, like, I think, want it.
Right.
I think Rayner's possibly the first person to say, oh, well, I might back out and I'll back somebody else. But also, like, Burnham's a non-starter. Burnham's
useless.
Burnham's not even in Parliament.
No.
And I know, and you know what they say? There's, there's a seat lined up for him. But where is it? They said this like 6 months ago and then nothing happened
Yeah.
as usual.
Right.
And all we've heard over the last few days is like, oh, there's some backbencher going to resign. But then there was an interview on TV with an MP who wanted Burnham to come back, and the journalist said, well, would you resign your seat in, you know, the wider Manchester area
Right.
to give Burnham a run? No. But you think someone should? Yes. And that
Well,
sums up the Burnham saga.
There
That
was a
sums it
story
up.
last night, wasn't there, that somebody called somebody Khan, I think it was, who was going to stand down somewhere in Manchester
Yeah.
to allow him to run. People are not that stupid.
No.
People aren't going to go, oh, great news, Andy Burnham's running to be my local MP when my other local MP is actually fine. People generally tend to sort of disagree with carpet bagging.
Yeah,
they
they
don't
do.
like people being parachuted in.
Absolutely.
Because they know that guy's not going to represent them. He's just interested in his own welfare.
Exactly.
And his own ambition. And also, by the way, Andy Burnham was a useless MP when he wasn't MP. He's not been a great mayor of Manchester. You know, Manchester is no better off now than it was before he took over. And so, what right does he have to suddenly go, I'd like to be Prime Minister?
Yeah.
Oh, well, on you go then.
Well, also, he's also a complete snake oil salesman. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, he was, you know, and there was a joke. It's like a Blairite, a Brownite, a Milibandite, a Corbynite, and a Starmerite walk
Yeah.
into a bar. It's Andy Burnham. Like, because he's been all of these
He
things
has,
all at
absolutely.
once. He was a Blairite. He was, Health Secretary under Brown. You know, then he was in Corbyn's shadow cabinet
Yeah.
as Shadow Home Secretary, and then he backed Starmer. So this guy is a Labour careerist
Yeah.
through and through.
Yeah.
He's not some sort of like dyed-in-the-wool, pure-blooded socialist
No.
guy or like a really effective operator. He's a career politician, just like the sodding rest of them.
Yes.
And why Labour members and why Labour MPs are being hoodwinked
Yeah.
by Burnham is completely beyond me.
Well, Pooch has been hoodwinked. I mean, Pooch is now walking around. He's going to come in tomorrow wearing one of those communist stars on his shirt. You know.
I love Keir Starmer hat.
You know, I love Keir Starmer. Now we've seen the real Keir Starmer. I really like him.
But also onto the Streeting point more specifically is actually, interestingly, Streeting has been a litany of failure since he became Health Secretary. I mean, I know he sometimes gives NHS trusts and bad performing NHS trusts, you know, a decently hard time and has
Yeah.
a go at them. But this is the guy that gave, you know, junior doctors and nurses massive pay rises,
Yeah.
like 25% pay rises, and without realising, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that because they're going to come back and ask for more because these guys act like a racket.
We're about to see the senior doctors now going on strike
Exactly.
because they want some more money
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, they balloted. They started their ballot on Monday. It's
Yeah.
going on for 8 weeks. We'll see that at the beginning of July. What that's
and
going to
also,
look like.
he came up with a brilliant idea of, I know how to reduce the waiting list, just take people's names off them.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so go, oh, look,
Cross.
if there are 1 million people waiting, I'll just take 500,000 off. Now there's only 500,000 people
Control-Alt-Delete.
waiting. It's true. We've got a poll going. This is for the departure of Pooch's favourite politician, Keir Starmer. Keir's cocktail names. This is if you were going to give Keir Starmer a cocktail on his way out. This Islington arse.
So I can't like him that much.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, but you've become more enamoured with him as the show's gone on. You know, but at 5 to 7, he wasn't that enamoured. Now he's loving it. The backdoor Ukrainian, 44%. A Keir wallbanger, that's a good one, 7%. Bit of Galliano. And Keir's sloppy exit, 24%. I mean, I reckon you could sell those down at Westminster for about, £7 a go.
I don't know, the cocktail bar I was in last night, Mike, I wasn't drinking any of those.
Really?
What
were you drinking?
I was drinking an old-fashioned.
An old-fashioned, yes, very good.
Well, they didn't have it on the menu, which I thought was weird.
Right.
They had like a variety of other things on the menu that I'd never heard of before, and I said, can I just get an old-fashioned, please? And luckily
Did they know what it was?
Yeah, absolutely, they knew what it was.
Because there is a problem sometimes. I mean, it's a bit better now, but there was a time when, for example, when I first came back from New York, and I used to quite like a vodka martini. They didn't know how to make them.
Really?
There was because
basic
people
cocktail.
but it's a very basic cocktail. But you'd have to go. No, don't actually put any vermouth in it at all. You just sort of waft it over the glass. I just want basically straight vodka and mainline it into my veins. Thank you very much indeed. Chill the hell out of it, and give it to me shaken, not stirred, in a martini glass. But the struggle to get that in the sort of I would say early to mid 90s was quite tough.
Crazy.
There's more cocktail bars now. But you're right, the whiskey sours of this
that's
sort
gone
of age,
as well.
That's an old-fashioned drink.
Yeah.
Gimlets,
those
kind of things.
Cobblers, you don't see them much anymore.
No, you don't. But anyway, so there's the poll for today. But yeah, I mean, Angela Rayner, people are asking the question, has she paid any penalties? Apparently they're not charging her any penalties at all. And I was saying to you, I was late paying my VAT bill once, which I have to pay quarterly, because my accountant had forgotten. Normally they send me an email and go, this is how much you owe. And they submitted the return to HMRC, but forgotten to email me. And it was a period when, there's all sorts of things going on. And so I forgot to pay it.
Yeah.
So I was a month late and they fined me £1,000 for non-payment of the VAT. And I was like, I've been paying my VAT for probably the best part of 12 years, and I've only once been late, and you're fining me £1,000.
Yeah.
And they didn't have any. They were like, so. Well, you just pay the fine. You were late. I mean, there was no kind of, don't worry about it. We'll just cancel the fine then. They didn't cancel the fine.
Where was your ITV interview asking you how you were feeling about it?
Nobody asked me.
And whether you were okay.
I'm feeling like Meghan Markle now.
Did it feel bad to hear those things being banded around?
Nobody asked me how I felt. Nobody said, are you okay? Is your mental health okay? No, he just said, pay up, give us £1,000 for a fine. Unbelievable. It is absolutely rotten, isn't it? Other stories that we need to talk about. I mean, we should play a bit of Kemi, shouldn't we? Because Kemi,
Kemi did a good job.
I think the star of the show, and I don't understand why Pooch has gone mad over Starmer, because the star of the show yesterday was Kemi Badenoch,
absolutely,
who absolutely ripped everybody to shreds. Should we have a look at her mocking Wes Streeting? Because this shows us exactly how Streeting is not ready to be Prime Minister, because he does not have a sense of humour about himself. Number 3, I think this is.
NHS England, something the Prime Minister announced 14 months ago. But then I suppose the Health Secretary has been a bit distracted lately, hasn't he? Hasn't he? He's chuntering now. Why don't you just do your job? Do your job. Even worse, Mr. Speaker, is what isn't in the gracious speech. There's no point in him giving me dirty looks. We all know what he's been up to. We all know. Even worse, Mr. Speaker.
Brilliant. That look at the end where she just gives him the little side eye.
Like, try it.
And he really doesn't like it. You can see that he's uncomfortable. He's trying to give it back to her at the beginning, and he just gives up because he knows he's got no equivalence to her intellect.
No, she was on top form.
Yeah.
I mean, Kemi, I remember talking to some Tory staffers and others on Tuesday evening when I was having a drink, and a few of them were like, God, it's just like old times, but it's nice that we're not doing it this time. This is what it feels like to be on the other side. And therefore, the Tories have basically not interrupted Keir Starmer or the Labour Party. They're letting them make the mistakes. But also, interestingly, Kemi, despite the King's speeches usually being supposedly more light-hearted, although I think the two Labour speeches were nauseatingly bad, I thought that Kemi's going for Starmer was the correct way to go about it, because it is the elephant in the room. She started off with that, like we need to talk about the elephant in the room. And then completely went for Starmer, and also specifically, like you said, Streeting. And as we've seen there, Streeting's temperament's just not able to cope cope with it,
No.
right? Whatever you say about Starmer, Starmer's like relatively placid. He just sort of like accepts it and
No, but
takes the hits.
this is why I know that it's an act, right? Because normally speaking, Starmer would go into the chamber, and he has in the past when you've thought he's been under attack. Come out fighting, come out swinging, I mean, not like he does in that boxing video.
Yeah.
But, he's come out and he's said, I'm angry about this. I'm terribly, I was let down by Peter Mandelson. I'm very angry. I'm furious.
Yeah.
And then he would fake the fury,
Yeah,
right?
he would.
He's now faking the fun. Because somebody said to him, look, you're going to go into the chamber. We're going to have the King's speech. Kemi Badenoch is going to go for the jugular, and the best thing for you to do is to smile and to take it, as because you're getting stooped. Just lie back and enjoy it, and you might as well make yourself look like a likeable individual, which is why he's done it that way.
Yeah, and it might provide the contrast between the way they knew Streeting's going to react because they knew Kemi was going to have to Streeting,
right? And
Streeting is just obviously a really
grumpy,
like little petulant child, and. I mean, the way I was trying to lip read. I didn't know what he said there, but he was just shouting and screaming at Kemi. But I'm glad Kemi, instead of continuing on with a script, actually went back and said, "Well, don't shout at me. Don't shout at me, Streeting. We all know what he's up to.
Yeah.
You should do one, mate.
Yeah,
effectively.
exactly. Or just do your job at one point." She said
and also,
to,
I bet various Labour backbenchers were like. Yeah, good. I'm glad
he's
you
not
said
popular.
that.
I mean, this is the thing. All the front pages this morning are full of it about how Streeting is going to challenge Keir Starmer today. He's going to quit. I mean, I don't know if that's going to happen. He's obviously trailed it to everybody. He's obviously told everybody he's going to quit. So I presume he now has to quit.
He has to.
Because otherwise he's going to look really, really stupid. But again, I said this the other day. Who died and made you boss?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly what makes you think that you should be the next guy in line. And most of the Labour Party, particularly those on the left of it, which is most of the backbenchers and most of the actual parliament, not non-parliamentary group, if you like. None of them want him to be in charge.
And also, you look at who's come out in favour of Starmer and who's come out against him. The usual suspects have come out against Starmer, but there's still only about 80, 90 of them.
Yeah.
There was a big open letter with over 100 MPs saying that Keir Starmer should stay. So just on the pure numbers, Starmer still has the majority of support in the Labour Party. But also when it comes to Streeting, various allies of his said that he's bottled it because he didn't do it on the Tuesday.
Yeah.
Because, I don't want to interrupt the King's speech and blah, blah, blah. And then he had that meeting with Starmer yesterday morning, which lasted
16 minutes.
16 minutes.
Yeah.
Because he went in and Keir Starmer went, sorry, there's only one issue per appointment. Off you go, mate.
Sorry, have you got an agenda?
Have you got an agenda?
Yeah.
In process.
Sorry,
it's waiting list today, isn't it?
It says here we're here to talk about the NHS.
Yeah, exactly.
There's nothing else that we can say.
Which I think would be hilarious from Starmer to do, just to be completely destroy Streeting just on the process.
Yeah.
But the fundamental point is if Streeting puts his head above the parapet, it's going to be interesting from the senior cabinet who breaks ranks, because what might happen is he might stand, he'll get some backbench interest, but then some loyalist Starmer out of the backbenches will just come in as health secretary and nothing will change and it will just all fall apart within 24 hours.
I bet you they give it to Pat McFadden because they give everything the sort of caretaker job to Pat McFadden, the enforcer,
But we've had this before, we did have a lady leadership election. Before everyone forgets about this, of course, we had the Corbyn coup in 2016. Yeah. We had Angela Eagle, who remembers Angela Eagle?
Oh my God, I forgot about her.
And then
she's still there.
She's still there, still around, Angela Eagle. And we had Owen Smith, if you remember Owen Smith, got their well showing.
Yeah.
And they both failed miserably because the party membership
never to be heard from again.
Never to be heard, disappeared into thin air. And interestingly, they both failed miserably against Corbyn. I think Corbyn increased his overall vote share, actually. But the interesting thing is that what's happening now is various people are joining the Labour Party to back Keir Starmer. To back Keir Starmer. So even if it...
But who are these people, though?
Right.
I mean, Pooch is obviously one of them.
Pooch is one of them,
Pooch's signing up straight away. But who's suddenly sitting in Britain going, do you know what? Keir Starmer's a great Prime Minister. What I want to do now is sign up to the Labour government and sign up to the Labour Party and give them some money.
Maybe we love to hate him. Maybe there's an element of that. We love to hate him.
No, I don't love to hate him.
You
I just hate him. I just hate him. I hate him with an absolute passion because he's a complete and utter bastard. Right? He's ruined people's lives, right? He's made parents suffer because he's made them take their kids out of private school and put them in state school and made them, have to go through all sorts of horrors. He's made businesses fail. He's made people unemployed. You know, he's ruined pensioners' lives. He's made people die because they couldn't turn the heating on over the course of the first winter he was in charge. You know, the guy is a complete scumbag in my view, and I don't believe any of this, you know, revamping of the Keir Starmer, image that suddenly he's turned into what he really is himself. Is this funny, whimsical kind of, you know,
which doesn't make up for any of the things he did in the
No,
first place. But
well, let's not forget what he did.
even if he was that from the beginning, it still doesn't make up for all the things he's done. No,
Exactly.
I know. But again, the interesting thing is apparently Labour HQ has also been inundated with calls from members of the public telling people to say, like, oh no, back Keir Starmer. And there's been a big letter writing campaign to MPs also by members of the public to keep Keir Starmer in power. And I think there's two elements to this. One, they don't think any other Labour cabinet minister is genuinely worthwhile replacing Starmer with.
Yeah.
And two, one of the reasons that they still voted Labour the last election was effectively because they were sick of this from the Tories.
Yeah.
So even though Labour is being rubbish, and I've spent 2 years complaining about the Labour Party, it's basically all I do. But they think that, well, better the devil you know. I'd rather have like 4 or 5 years of rubbish, boring government under Keir Starmer rather than just going back to Tory chaos. Because also, like also another part to this is also when there's political turmoil, and people forget about this. When there is political turmoil, it actually has a direct impact on your life because of the bond market and the way they react. Because then interest rates have to go up, inflation increases, people's mortgages then increase. You know, there's genuine spikes, and actually at the moment, Starmer's best ally is the bond market because he can say, look, I'm not great, but at least I'm predictable. The
but the problem is the bond market yields are higher than they've ever been.
Yeah,
much higher than they ever were under Liz Truss. And nobody's saying anything. The Bank of England's saying nothing, the Financial Times saying nothing, BBC saying nothing. You know, if this was Liz Truss who was in charge, they'd be chasing her down the street, going, you know, what's going on? What are you going to do? And I don't believe the sort of mantra that, you know, Keir Starmer's dull and boring and steady, because he isn't. Because in fact, what he's done is he's wrecked the entire British economy. You know, he's ruined our international reputation. He's made our defences look ridiculous. He's weakened our borders. He's caused all manner of unrest within communities because of his insistence on protecting mosques while at the same time having a go at far-right thugs. I mean, even this weekend, we've got a situation coming up where we've got the Unite the Kingdom march, which is going to be subjected to facial recognition cameras, and the pro-Palestinian march, which isn't. Right? And you're kind of going, well, how is that a good thing to do? How is that in any way fair, equitable? You know, Starmer is a one-legged man in a two-legged race, and he doesn't have the ability to pivot because he can't. And I don't believe that this new look Starmer is any better than the old look Starmer.
And look, I do agree with you. I'm simply repeating things that I've heard like investors say or read that investors said, because basically one publication that has talked about it in great detail is actually the Telegraph, to be fair to them. They've been really keeping an eye on the financial markets. And there was a Goldman Sachs source that came out yesterday and said that if political turmoil like this continues, we're going to see Liz Truss 2.0, but significantly worse in terms of bond market.
Well, why have we seen it already, though, is my point.
Because again, Starmer's staying put. There's still that consistency there. And also, they're more scared about Burnham. The bond markets are terrified of Burnham because Burnham doesn't believe in the bond markets. But this point also irritates me. Burnham and his allies, Burnham came out ages ago in the New Statesman and said, Britain's in hogs to the bond markets, economically illiterate, but fine, whatever. Then we move on and he sees his allies saying that if Burnham does get into power, the bond markets need to fall in line. That's not how it works. If you don't want to be exposed to the market and not exposed to the bond markets, fine. But the way you do that is by not having a £2.7 trillion national debt and then
stop
borrowing more money.
Yeah.
Right? But which is both things that Burnham doesn't care about, wants to do more.
No, because like all of these characters, he doesn't understand the private markets, he doesn't understand private business, he doesn't understand the economy, other than the one that he feeds with public money.
Yeah, exactly.
He has no understanding of commerce, he has no understanding of how you make a profit in a business, he has no understanding of anything other than taxing people, like Angela Rayner, and making sure that you use that tax to actually continue to fund, you know, more public sector workers.
And the investors who are reading in the Telegraph, they were saying, like, you know, we reacted badly when Liz Truss did unfunded funded tax cuts, but wait until you see the way we react with unfunded spending,
right
on a level that we've not seen before.
But that's what we're now seeing, and that's why I don't understand why they haven't reacted like that, like they did against Liz Truss, against Keir Starmer. And you can only conclude one thing, and that is that they're all in hock with each other, and they're all in hock with the left-wing kind of establishment this country seems to now be run by, where literally ordinary people like you and I are punished for making money, punished for having a job, punished for doing something to try and better yourself, punished for having children, punished for, going on holiday. Everything you do is taxed now by these wankers.
Speaking of punishments and taxes, I mean, if, say this all blows over, say that Starmer stays and Reeves stays, because of this, Reeves has lost about £12 billion worth of headroom. 12 billion quid, which means, you know what that means, Mike, in the next budget. Oh, there's another black hole. There's another black hole,
There's another black hole, which we've made.
We've made.
I mean, this is a woman who brought in a mansion tax that ended up costing her money.
Yes, mansion taxes cost money. The capital gains tax increases have cost money. The VAT on private schools is actually going to cost the Treasury money. All stuff that I predicted when they first implemented it, by the way. But nevertheless, many other economists and normal people did. Because, if you tax something, you tend to get less of it. So what do you think is going to happen if you tax private schools and big houses? And also...
65,000 kids had to leave private schools as a result.
And also that's taxing SEND and social care schools, right? It's taxing SEND care schools. It's taxing... like schools that are, specifically for, kids that need a little bit of extra help. And, this is the party of compassion.
Kids,
this is supposed to be a party of compassion. And what you're doing is you're putting these kids in comprehensive school where they can't get that help because essentially you've just priced their parents out who work bloody hard to get their kids into those decent schools. You now priced them out, and now you're going to give those kids a worst chance in life now because of it. It's
an awful lot of local councils also have now got a much bigger transport bill because they're having to transport these kids from one place to another, sometimes out of the county they're living in, because there aren't any spaces for them to go anyway.
Well, we've talked about this in detail before about the taxi bills in local government, and we've done some research into this ourselves. But nevertheless, I think that the cool point is, like, you are correct. Of course, I'm on the Mike Graham show. Of course, I'm going to say you're correct. But nevertheless, like, you are correct. I think you shouldn't buy the Keir Starmer stuff and the new flick of paint he's put on himself and the joy. No. But one thing I would say, just as a slight moment of caution,
Ukrainian makeover.
I wouldn't expect Starmer to be out by the end of this week, and wouldn't even expect him to by the end of next week, because Starmer is going to fight this with every single fibre of his body.
Yeah, because he's got nothing else.
And also MPs, he's got nothing else, but also MPs don't know how to get rid of a guy like Starmer who just says no. Like, Tory MPs, when they said Prime Minister should go, most Prime Ministers went, I've lost support, I need to leave immediately.
I was sitting here
yesterday
with Jeff Banks, the iconic fashion designer who's been an incredible influence on British culture and society for decades, right? And he just said, look, a decent man would just walk away, because you're now sitting there in a position where everybody doesn't want you to be there. You've achieved nothing. In fact, worse than that, you've taken Britain down a terribly dark path where you've made it the laughingstock of the world. You've bankrupted the economy. You've borrowed more money than you can afford to pay back. You've embarrassed our allies in America. You've ruined the special relationship. Just go, right? And any decent, normal person would go, okay, hands up. I tried my best. It's not my fault, but I'm going to walk away. Instead of which he goes, I'm not going to walk away. I'm going to sit here and carry on the mandate that I was given by the British people. It wasn't giving a bloody mandate by the British people.
But also, this mandate for change nonsense. I was going through the bills after the King's speech, and do you know what? It's so lacklustre, Mike. It's so lacklustre. It's digital ID, which no one voted for. EU realignment, which no one voted for. A visitors levy, by the way, which means that if you do staycations in the United Kingdom, folks, you're going to be paying extra money.
Another couple of hundred quid
on top of your hotel bills, which is nice, and that's being imposed from the local level, so they can squeeze money out of you. All it is just
a return to the European Union. I mean, the Sun has helpfully done a little sort of at a glance guide, right? And they've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 things, right? Digital ID drive, create a new voluntary digital ID system, which nobody wants.
Not voluntary, and also it's not voluntary.
And it's not voluntary. Holiday tax, as you say, allows mayors and local leaders in 13 areas to introduce tourist tax for overnight stays in England. EU rules return. What's the government now going to adopt more EU rules to live by, right?
Food and red tape,
small boats, tighten asylum appeals and introduce new measures aimed at stopping... What's he talking about, right? Votes at 16, lowering the voting age to 16, who are all going to vote green, idiot. NHS app shake-up. I mean, That's not a policy.
No.
You're going to change the
Redo
way the
the
app
app,
works,
yeah.
right? Leasehold reform begins phasing out leaseholds on new flats and caps existing ground rents. Rubbish. Iran banning powers, gives ministers powers to ban hostile foreign state-backed groups like Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps. Well, they can do that now.
You do it now,
That
yeah.
doesn't need to be in there. And they've still got the bloody Iranian ambassador sitting in the embassy. Touts out. Ministers will publish draft laws to ban ticket resales. What? Steel takeover. Ministers get the power to nationalise British steel.
This is a plan.
rubbish.
That's the plan. That's
I mean,
the plan for
I'm
change.
not even going to bother tearing it up. It's just crap.
That's the plan for change.
Yeah.
But also, like as you noticed, it's just like more impositions on your freedoms, more taxes for you, and also more mealy-mouthed things like, oh, we've passed a law to say that we can do this, but we're not actually going to do it, like with the IRGC stuff. I mean, the most egregious one for me, actually, which wasn't mentioned, is they've got a bill that's literally called the Regulating for bill. like that's a joke. That's a joke I would make. I'd make a joke about Labour regulating for growth, and yet they've called the bill regulating for growth. They're like, well, we need to talk with the Competition Markets Authority and all these financial regulators about how we can boost economic growth. It's like, well, maybe stop putting red tape on small businesses and taxing them in the first place, and maybe you'll get growth.
Maybe you'll get growth.
I'm sorry, is that too radical for you guys?
No, because they only think growth comes from giving government money to people, which has come from the taxpayer or the businesses that they're taxed in order to sort of give some, disabled group of people, the money to go on a bank holiday bus ride, and they think that's growth. It's just rubbish, right? And the point is that everybody can see through it. Everybody can see that there's nothing new. And even, we had a text there from somebody who said even King Charles didn't look happy yesterday because he was being used as a political football, right? Here it is from Windy Cheek. The King didn't look well or happy yesterday. Absolutely disgusting that he was made to read out such utter crap, which obviously is going completely against the British people's wishes. Correct. People in this country are very clear about what they want. I'm not reading that. I am not reading that out. Richie, thank you very much indeed.
Good point, well made.
It's a very good point, well made, but I'm not saying it. I can't believe more of you have not come up with some more Keir Starmer cocktails, by the way. I've seen one that said what was it?
That one?
The doggy style daiquiri. Starmer's foaming Ukrainian schlong on the rocks.
What? Well, like
is that shaken or stirred?
For some even better news, guys, we got some breaking news just in. The UK economy has grown by 0.6% in the first 3 months of 2026. Well done, guys.
Yeah, well done,
0.6%.
Come on, Richard III.
Well done, guys.
On,
We've done it.
No wonder she was looking
The
so
plan
happy.
for change.
She was looking so happy yesterday in the chamber, right? Because she'll say that's above expectations, outperforming
she
the markets.
was talking to Mel Stride, and they were seemingly getting on quite funny. Mel was just doing his usual, like, oh, what's going on over here?
Was this when they were walking into the
they were walking back into
House
the
of
chamber,
Lords,
And Mel seemed to be charming her pants off somehow. Well, I mean, I think she's probably single now, so Mel can, do what he likes.
Yeah, that's another one. Yeah. Marriages don't last long in Labour government.
But I saw it mouthing, and I thought, like, wouldn't it be funny if Mel's like, go on, Rachel, stand for leader. It'll be funny.
Yeah.
I'll back you. Go on, it'll be funny. It'll be hilarious.
There was a couple of funny moments, actually. I was going to ask you about this because I saw, when Kemi, again, when, the new Keir Starmer, maybe he's been replaced, like the pod people in, what was that movie? What was that, what do you call it? The Body Snatchers movie. Do you remember when they put and you wake up in the morning, there's a big pod in the garden and it's growing like another person. I think that's what's happened. He's been replaced overnight by somebody who's actually much nicer than he was and who's trying to be funny now. But he was sort of engaging in conversation with Kemi Badenoch, right? But the one that was interesting was James Cleverly walking with Wes Streeting, right? And James Cleverly, I don't know if we've got the clip, I don't think we have. James Cleverly's chatting away to him and Streeting's looking at him and then looking away. It doesn't answer him. So there's nothing.
There's nothing to him. It's so funny. Streeting, because Cleverly's like quite a tall, imposing bloke. He's also quite a charming chap who walks over to Streeting.
He is. I like Cleverly.
And bit of a wet blanket politically, but nevertheless, he is a perfectly nice guy. And he walked over to Streeting and started talking to him and was saying, "Hello, mate, how are you doing?" You could see he was making small talk. It wasn't like talking politics. And Streeting just like,
and just didn't respond.
But also,
at all,
interestingly, no other Labour MPs were talking Streeting, as you probably saw. Everyone else was sort of getting along and being.
Well, this is the bit I don't get. Again, this whole business of I'm going to come back tomorrow and I'm going to resign. Well, why don't you just resign today?
Yeah.
Why didn't he just resign yesterday when he came out after 16 minutes with Starmer and just go, I've now resigned as the Secretary of State for Health?
Imagine being him yesterday. Imagine how awkward he must have felt all day.
Yeah.
Like knowing that everyone knows like, what you're up to, but you can't do anything.
And also being rammed by Kemi Badenoch. Mike, you forgot the policy has slipped in to ban any new licences to drill in the North Sea and putting into law.
Yeah, that's a new one.
Well,
as well.
I mean, I haven't forgotten that, but the Sun obviously haven't mentioned it. So yeah. The trouble is, this entire government is run by stealth.
It is.
And they do things that they don't want to tell you about. They don't want anyone to have access to the information that they know that they have. And they're dishonest, ghastly, and it's just pathetic.
And we haven't even talked about Miliband at all and all of this.
He's mentioned, isn't he, on I think one of the front pages today, because it says Miliband to fight streaking for number 10, front page of the Telegraph. So Miliband clearly has got an agenda.
Interesting.
So I'm not sure where that all ends up. But the Telegraph reckon that he's definitely in there with a shout.
Oh man, it's going to be fun to watch today. It's got. I think. Do you think streeting's going to go today?
Well, I mean, everybody seems to think so.
Yeah.
I have no inside track on it. I don't know. But if he doesn't, it's all over.
Yeah, it's all over. It's all gone.
If he doesn't go today, he might as well forget about it.
Then that destroys momentum for Rayner, that destroys momentum for Bernard, that destroys momentum for Miliband, that destroys momentum for the backbenchers, which means all of the last week would have been for nothing.
Yeah.
And nothing, like what was the point of the last week of political turmoil? Was it worth shoving the bond markets through the roof? Was it worth possibly causing an interest rate spike? Was it worth wiping £12 billion off Rachel Reeves' headroom? Was all of this worth it, guys?
Right.
And now you're going to be even more unpopular in the next budget.
And we heard from
because
Esther McVeigh was here
taxes,
yesterday talking about how she'd been working on some projects with various different people, including government ministers. But one of the government ministers involved had resigned, and so that's all fallen apart.
Yeah.
So there's no work being done. There's no actual business of government being done because there's all these holes being created, and Starmer's sort of filling them with people that don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so suddenly, people that we've never heard of leaving the government are being replaced by other people we've never heard of who don't know what to do.
So it's like, same
It's literally a zombie. It's a zombie government. I mean, this is why I said weeks ago, I think what will happen is in the end, things will cataclysmically sort of collapse around themselves and we'll end up having to have a national general election just in order to kind of reset the whole country. Because at the moment, nobody's running it.
No.
You can't imagine anybody waking up this morning in number 10 is doing anything other than trying to save Keir Starmer's arse.
Yeah.
Right?
They're not pursuing their plan for change because they're the guy who's doing the plan for change has looked like it's on the way out.
Right.
So Streeting has to do it today or it's over.
Yeah.
It's over for him, and actually Starmer's going to stay there. And also, this is going to destroy any momentum or any desire for future coups because they just think, we can't get rid of this guy. We can't coup this guy. We're just stuck with him until 2029. Yeah. And actually, various people, including Mark Littlewood, I know comes on the show relatively regularly. I remember talking to him about a while back, and he was just like, Don't put bets against Starmer going anytime soon. If they do try and coup, it'll be a shambles, as it has been.
Do you remember General Noriega, old pineapple
yes, of course,
face, right?
Yeah.
And the Americans couldn't get him out of the presidential palace in Panama, so they went with these huge speakers and put them outside the presidential palace and just played Guns N' Roses to him really, really loudly until he eventually gave up and just came out with his hands up and went, all right, I can't take it anymore. That's what we need to do.
We need to just do that.
Yeah, just play Guns N' Roses or Frank Sinatra or something. To play something to Downing Street until he walks away.
Play the Mike Graham show just on
the Mike Graham show,
blast.
actually, on full blast. That would be good. There is one saving grace though of our democracy, and that is that everybody will always be able to rally around the fact that Ed Davey is perhaps the most useless and most hated leader of any political party. Have a look at this, right? This is yesterday when he finally got up to say something, and everybody walks out. Have a look.
The leader of the Liberal Democrats, Sir Ed Davey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and may I start by giving my sincere thanks to His Majesty.
The whole place.
It's so perfectly timed.
If you're having a party at home and you want people to leave, just give Ed Davey a call. He'll turn up. They'll all just walk away.
What is the point of Ed Davey? Like what?
Well, Kemi also gave him a good slap yesterday. I think when she said that King Charles had done a brilliant job in America, and unfortunately for some leaders of the political parties in Britain who said he shouldn't go. Even more ridiculous.
I'm glad the King doesn't listen to Ed Davey.
No
one listens to Ed Davey or something like that.
No one. Not even Mrs. Ed Davey, I think.
No one cares about him.
Absolutely amazing. William, great to see you.
Great to see you, Mike.
Thank you very much indeed. One final piece of advice for you. Apparently, according to the Telegraph, more than 8 hours sleep a night hastens ageing. So if you're out drinking cocktails, not having much sleep, you're going to live longer and you're not going to look as old as a lot of other people
So
who have
this
too
is
much
again
sleep.
your desire to make sure I don't sleep 9 hours an evening. Yeah, okay.
Don't do it. Nobody thinks you should do that.
On the last point, the reason I was at the cocktail bar last night is because I was seeing a girl.
Oh, really?
I was seeing a lady. Yeah. So,
Anybody we know?
No, unfortunately
Are you
not.
sure?
Unfortunately not. Positive.
I know
Very,
a lot
very
of
positive.
people, as
Yeah, I
they
bet you
say.
do, mate. Yeah, no, unfortunately not.
All
Yeah,
right, how did it go?
Yeah, it went well. It went well. We've been talking for sort of a decent amount of time, but we've sort of had this. She's doesn't live in London. Basically,
Okay.
so that's the biggest issue,
All
really.
right.
But we're sort of.
So she has to take the last train home.
We're ironing.
I mean,
things
I'm
out,
not trying to.
No. But I just thought,
pry.
just for interest
good
of
for you.
transparency. So I was out with a
good for
lovely
you.
lady last night. which I
Absolutely
enjoyed.
right. Quite right too. Well,
I think I
well
deserve
done.
happiness,
She's
you
a
know.
very fortunate woman to be able to spend some time with you, quality time. Very well said. Well, very well done, William Yarwood, who will be the star of the show, by the way, when you see it next week. He was on the stage at Shepherd's Empire with Layla Cunningham. Not an easy duo to be in.
No.
Because, she's a very powerful woman and a very kind of, charismatic woman. But you were brilliant. So thank you for that. We'll be back speaking to Chris Rose after this. There's more tube strikes coming if you live in London, by the way, next week. Another triumph for Sadiq Khan. But let's get some news, shall we, with Edward Hughes?
Good morning, I'm Edward Hughes. Over 80 Labour MPs have called for Starmer to resign or set a departure timetable, with several ministers urging an orderly exit. Health Secretary Wes Streeting is widely reported to be preparing a leadership challenge as early as today, potentially resigning to trigger a contest. Starmer has defied the pressure, insisting he will fight on and warning a leadership battle would bring chaos. Today's King's speech outlining the government's legislative agenda was overshadowed by the drama. Other headlines: a new UK-France deal aims to tackle small boat crossings with extra funding for French police and surveillance. Yeah, right. In sport, the Scottish Premiership title race is going to the final day after dramatic results. Manchester City narrowed the gap at the top of the Premier League. Please remember to like and subscribe. Laters Tigers, back to Mick.
Did he say Mick? Yeah. It's the one thing you don't call me, right? Hughes. Nick.
No, Mick.
Mick. Yeah, don't call me Mick. Mick is not a word that is ever used in my space. You can call me Archie if you'd prefer, or you can call me Michael, or you can call me Mike, but not Mick. Never Mick.
He's getting a bit previous.
What's going on with Edward Hughes?
I don't know.
Do you know what? I'm getting a bit fed up with him.
Are you?
I think maybe we should have another HR conference and see if we can find somebody else. I prefer Fiona, to be honest.
He's taking the mick now, isn't he?
He is taking the mick, literally. Absolute bastard. Anyway, Pooch, by the way, has gone right over to the other side. He's just said to me, have you seen Rachel Reeves? Let's have a look. Shall we have another look at that clip of Keir Starmer? We've got a couple, actually, of Keir Starmer being funny. Let me just tell you what we've got. Hang on a second, because the one we played out was that number 1 that you played out before. Because let's have a look at the next one, which is number 10. Okay. Let's try number 10 and have a look at. Watch Rachel Reeves' face, right?
Speaker, let me also thank the Leader of the Opposition for the usual warm and generous nature of her contribution. In difficult days, her input is always a ray of sunshine. But we do have one thing in common. Our parties both had tough results in the local elections last week. The difference is, she hasn't noticed. And Mr. Speaker, there's another difference, Mr. Speaker. We are in government, and they are no longer even the opposition.
Now, you might have seen Rachel Reeves in that clip, right? Smiling, looking much more relaxed than she's ever looked. The troubled look has gone. It's almost like they've had this ridiculous makeover. But here's Pooch, right? Now, Pooch has gone mad, in my view. I think it might be time for you to take holiday.
Maybe.
Because he reckons now that he fancies Rachel Reeves.
Yeah.
All right? Fancies her.
Yeah, big time.
I mean, apart from the fact, well, she's meant to be a married woman. I don't know how her marriage is going, but there's definitely something happened. Something has happened inside of the Downing Street machine where they've said, why don't you just all go out there and be charming? He's fallen for it. I haven't fallen for it. Let's talk to Chris Rose and see whether he's fallen for it. Chris, very good morning to you, sir.
Morning, Mike. Morning. Good to see you again.
Pooch, my producer, has gone mad, right? He's now decided that Keir Starmer's performance yesterday was so good that that's the guy he likes. And he's going, if he'd been like that all along, we'd all really like the guy. And I just think it's an act. I think it's a really cynical kind of manoeuvre by Starmer to try, not necessarily to make himself look good, but to actually make Wes Streeting look like the sort of grumpy, upstart from the teenage school who doesn't really have any wherewithal and certainly no right to become Prime Minister.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I didn't really fall for it. I thought he looks a bit fake. Or maybe, he's finally come to the realisation that he is hated, the Labour Party is hated, and he's just accepted it and thought, I'm more relaxed now about it. I'm not going to try and pretend as if I'm liked. Maybe that's why. But, it's a bit too little too late. If he had been more charming and more authentic and more, charismatic from the beginning, maybe we could have given him more of a chance. But then again, it wouldn't have really made up with all the bad policies that he's doing. He can't exactly betray the British public, but we'll forgive him because it's a bit funny in Prime Minister's Questions time. And it wouldn't really work that way. And, as for Rachel Reeves, I think she's probably more relaxed now because I think she's, had 2 years of being a complete nightmare. Nothing's gone well for her at all because she's just, unsuitable for the job. So she's probably thinking, I'm no longer going to be Chancellor. I'm no longer going to be messing up the economy. She's probably thinking, finally, I hope Wes Streeting resigns today and calls leadership election so I can be out of this job within weeks. Please, Wes Streeting. She's probably begging him.
I mean, it's funny, isn't it? Because you can't. I think it's hard for most of us to get into the mentality of politicians and to try and figure out what's going on in their minds. Because, I mean, most normal people being put under the kind of pressure that Keir Starmer's been put under and knowing that you are hated by pretty much the entire population of the country, whether they're left wing, right wing, doesn't really matter. Most people, and I had Jeff Banks in here yesterday, most decent people would just go, all right, the game's up, I'm just going to leave. I don't think you and I, or most ordinary people, could countenance what you do with somebody who just refuses to walk off the job when they know that they can't do it. I mean, I think it was Lembit Opik that said last week, I'm really surprised that Keir Starmer's so desperate to hold on to a job which he's clearly incapable of doing.
Yeah, that's the thing. And, it's actually Keir Starmer's own standards that would tell him to resign. Because if a Tory Prime Minister or a Reform Prime Minister who had been defeated in local elections so heavily, their opinion pollings were, in the gutter, and they decided, you know what, even my own MPs are telling me to go, but I'm going to stay. He'd be calling them a dictator. He'd be saying, this man, this woman, they're not listening at all. They're so out of touch. Who do they think they are? And yet Keir Starmer, he's doing it, and he doesn't even notice the double standards. It's like they're emballed in so much hypocrisy that they don't even see what comes naturally to them, like drinking water, And I think to myself, Keir Starmer, if he was an ounce of decency, he would have gone probably a month ago, straight after the mandates and stuff, actually. So probably last September.
Yeah.
But here he is, still clinging on, and I just think, hang on a minute, you should have resigned. We wouldn't accept this from Boris at all.
No. Well, funnily enough, we got a clip actually from when Boris was clinging on to power back in the day when he was Prime Minister. And guess what Keir Starmer had to say about it? Have a look at this.
To go completely. None of this nonsense about clinging on for a few months. He's inflicted lies, fraud and chaos in the country. And, we're stuck with a government which isn't functioning in the middle of a cost of living crisis. And the change we need is not a change at the top of the Tory party. It's much more fundamental than that. We need a change of government and a fresh start for Britain. His own party have finally concluded that he's unfit to be Prime Minister. They can't now inflict him on the country for the next few months. It's obvious he's unfit to be Prime Minister. That's been blindingly obvious for a very, very long time. And if they don't get rid of him, then Labour will step up in the national interest and bring a vote of no confidence, because we can't go on.
Apparently we can't go on with a government in which nobody has any confidence. I mean, the hypocrisy is absolutely incredible, isn't it?
Absolutely. I should say I love the Starmer bot thing. I think there's more life in that one than there is in the real Keir Starmer.
It's true. Absolutely.
What I love about that clip is he's actually, saying, "Oh, we should have a general election as well." So
Yeah.
based on the precedent he's set, not only should Keir Starmer resign, they should have a new leadership election and then call a general election straight after. That's what they want, really.
Yeah.
Because we are still living a cost of living crisis. We still have fundamental issues. The illegal migration hasn't been sorted out. In fact,
No.
someone got areas. So again, we should absolutely have a general election on that, and I would love to have one because no matter who replaces Keir Starmer, whether it's West Street in Mad Ed Miliband, Shabana, or any others like Angela Rayner, they're all going to be just as bad. In fact, out of all of them, I would prefer the that lettuce from 2022, who they compared to Liz Truss. I think that would be much better and more competent.
Well, this is it. I mean, when you look around every single aspect of our country right now, nothing's working. The trains don't work. The Home Office has got no power over the borders. They don't know what they're doing. They're banning people from coming to the country to march in a rally because they've got the wrong views from various different, one of whom, or maybe two of them, are actually members of the European Parliament. You've got massive clampdowns on freedom of speech. You've got a terrible state of the NHS. You've got the prisons in crisis. You've got the police not knowing what to do. They're having facial recognition cameras at Tommy Robinson March, but not at the Palestinian March. The economy's down the gurgler. Our defence is completely bankrupt. There's literally everything that they've been in charge of for the last 2 years has got worse.
Absolutely, and the message from the local elections was that we're not happy with the state of the country, not happy with what Labour's doing. But their response to it was just, we're going to realign with the EU and we're going to introduce digital ID.
Yeah.
Two things which we do not want. Nobody voted for either of them either. And, it kind of just shows that they're just clueless, out of touch and everything. And what makes it even worse is that, whilst we do send a message to them, they're just nothing's going to change at all. In fact, with the people they said were banned from the Tommy Robinson March, it's quite funny that he said that because not that long ago he was proud and delighted to welcome that Egyptian fella who has some absolutely disgusting views about white people and Jewish people, quite violent as well. I think I'd rather him not be in the UK and invite the guests to the Tommy Robinson March because they're not going to invite violence at all. And I know about those people. They're not going to call for anything hostile against ethnic minorities. I mean, if you've ever been to a Tommy Robinson March in recent years, they are very welcoming. They have choirs and hymns, and they have.
Well, I know loads of people that have gone on those rallies and had a wonderful day out, and they all say rave about it. And I've spoken to many people who are coming this weekend as well because they enjoyed it so much the last time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, unfortunately, I won't be able to make it to the one on Saturday, but I imagine it will just be a good family day out like it was for the previous ones. There'll be Union Jack flags, there'll be St. George's flags. I prefer to see flags of the UK rather than the Palestinian flags and the Ayatollah pictures on display.
Yeah, and I would rather not. Yeah, I would rather not have people marching around the capital city of Great Britain shouting "Death to Israel" and "Death to the United States of America." I'd rather they weren't allowed to march than the people who are just walking around with some British flags, proud to be British and celebrating British culture.
Absolutely, and I agree. And I just know that when it happens, the media, being the two-tier media reporting that we have, will probably see one or two people causing trouble, and then they'll highlight it on the front page. But when it comes to pro-Palestinian marches, if there could be a whole trouble with the whole crowd, and they weren't reporting it, they'll say it was a friendly, peaceful, gathering. Yeah. So I do think there is that two-tier reporting that we're absolutely going to see. And I imagine that there won't actually be much trouble at the
no, of course not. No, because there wasn't any trouble last time. Detractors will say, "Oh, there were some people arrested." Yeah, there was something like I think 23 people arrested. You get more people arrested at a football match, for heaven's sake, than you see in that situation. But yeah, it's the whole country is screwed right now by this Labour government, and the sooner we get them out, the better. There's a nice little rejoinder for you, Chris, before we go. Chris Rose is a top man, says not Baltic. Very good indeed, he's entirely right. Good to see you, Chris, thanks very much indeed. We've got the front pages telling us, Chris Rose there talking to us about the state of play. We'd rather have the Unite the Kingdom march being given carte blanche, if you want, rather than allowing these pro-Palestinian bozos to walk around the streets threatening death to all Israelis. Streeting to ignite Labour Day of Anarchy. I don't know when that's going to kick off. When do you think the Day of Anarchy starts, Pooch, normally? Is it 9 o'clock? A bit early.
Are you working from home?
A Day of Anarchy working from home doesn't really work well, does it? Stand by your beds. So we'll check the international clock, because later on we're going to be talking to Misley Mandarin over in the Chagos Islands, and of course our international clock is on Chagos Islands time, which we'll be very happy to report. Let's do a few super chats, shall we, before we go to Marilyn Hawes. This one from Jane. The state of the country is no laughing matter. Absolutely right. And the fact that they're sitting there all chuckling away, David Lammy, isn't it all terribly funny? Oh, look, isn't Keir Starmer charming? Rachel Reeves trying to look all coquettish and kind of, attracting people like Pooch into her lair. Starmer's cocktail, the Islington bumslinger, says Cookie Boy. Very good. We're asking for your names for cocktails that Starmer would drink on his way out of Downing Street. Laura Jane says, the Mike Graham Show, best show on YouTube. Pooch and Charlotte and the team are all fab. A very important part of my morning routine watching this show. Well, thank you, Laura Jane, for that. We do our best, and we've had some incredible numbers. Do you know that we've been running at about 100,000 per show, people watching every single day since last Thursday? Is the window open, MG? Hair looks jazzy today. I don't know what to do about the hair, I don't know why it's
cut short.
Well, I could get it cut short. I don't like short hair though. I actually quite like it long. Maybe I'll go with the old Stephen Barrett look.
Yeah, do that.
What do you think? And I can just run my hands through it as I do the show. This one from Jazz, who says, the only U-turn Starmer won't do is they're taking Britain back to the EU. Seems to be the government's main focus. Starmer's new job will likely be in Europe, starting by dinghy to France to escape oppressed Britain. That is the thing that you've got to really be careful of as well. As you watch the so-called charmer Starmer, which has never been a phrase ever used in the history of Starmer's life, right? Charmer Starmer. I think I've just nailed it, haven't I?
Yeah.
The Starmer the Charmer, right? Forget about that, right? Because he's hoodwinking everybody into sleepwalking back into the European Union. Morning, Mike and Co, says Voice for England. I've just had food poisoning for 3 days. Compared to cardboard Keir's premiership, the symptoms felt like an absolute dream. Yeah, you don't want food poisoning. That's not fun. And then finally, from Cheshire Lady, a nice super chat there from Cheshire Lady. Thank you very much indeed for that. We're going to speak very shortly to Marilyn Hawes, Starmer the Charmer. I'm flummoxed by this, by the way, that Pooch has fallen for it. Not only has he fallen for Starmer the Charmer, he now thinks Richard III looks fanciable. He's decided that she's, he'd quite like to have a bit of a night out with her. Or a night in, maybe.
Yeah, I think she'll fall for my charm.
Crikey. There's something very wrong about all of that. Very wrong indeed. I don't want to talk about it. It's making me feel quite unwell. I've passed the sick bag, Alice, as they used to say. Perhaps Pooch needs a couple of days off to think about his feelings. Well, luckily, we're all going a bit mad here at the Mike Graham Show, so we've actually ordered each other to go on holiday. Yeah. He's going off next week, so Charlotte's going to be in the chair. I've been ordered to go away, so I think I'm going to be going away in June or something. We shall see. But yeah, I wish, and Charlotte's also going to take a trip, but I wish that Starmer would take a trip as well. Take a long holiday and never come back. That would be my suggestion. Let's get some news with Edward Hughes.
Good morning, I'm Edward Hughes. Over 80 Labour MPs have called for Starmer to resign or set a departure timetable, with several ministers urging an orderly exit. Health Secretary Wes Streeting is widely reported to be preparing a leadership challenge as early as today, potentially resigning to trigger a contest. Starmer has defied the pressure, insisting he will fight on and warning a leadership battle would bring chaos. Today's King's speech outlining the government's legislative agenda was overshadowed by the drama. Other headlines: a new UK-France deal aims to tackle small boat crossings with extra funding for French police and surveillance. Yeah, right. In sport, the Scottish Premiership title race is going to the final day after dramatic results. Manchester City narrowed the gap at the top of the Premier League. Please remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tigers, back to Mick.
Would you stop saying Mick? I'm not having it. Can you cut that bit out? Yeah. You tell him to redo the news, right? The news with Edward Hughes. Otherwise, I'm going to start calling him Teddy.
Teddy's good.
Teddy Hughes. It sounds like a guy on a bike, doesn't it? With a leather jacket. Teddy Hughes. Right. Now, last Wednesday, I have to say, I had one of the most enjoyable evenings I've had in my life. This show is fast becoming a TV channel, isn't it? Says Not Baltic. Well, we are becoming a TV channel because we are going to be pushing out live TV through the incredible new channel, which is going to be called UK Live Online. We're going to try and flip over to it today at 9:30 because that's what we're if you bear with us, we're trying to make sure that we can iron out all the kind of all the hiccups and all the kind of bumps in the road, if you like, before we go live, because we're going to go live soon. We have Russell Quirk's going to be doing a show. We've got some great plans for some other names of people who want to come in and help us out, because we believe that there is absolutely room for a proper commonsensical channel which has proper commonsensical presenters, not necessarily all of whom will agree politically. Some may have different views to me. I mean, notwithstanding the fact that Pooch has gone mad and gone over to the other side with regards to Keir Starmer and his now charmer persona. Marilyn Hawes is going to be talking to us about something. And who knows where it goes? I mean, it could go stratospheric. It will go. And I think it will, actually, because we believe that there is no other place currently in British broadcasting that will be as funny, that will be as engaging, that will be as community-minded. Because that's one of the things that we love about what we do here at the Mike Graham Show, is that we have created a really, really beautiful community. And we saw it on Wednesday night last week. If you were there, thank you for coming. If you missed it, there is going to be a film made available to you, which will be available, I think, next week, or maybe the week after, we're not sure. And you'll be a discount on it, because it will be a pay-per-view scenario, obviously, because we have to pay for the production of everything that we do. Not very much, however, but you'll also get a discount if you're a Substacker, if you're a paid subscriber, and also similarly, if you're a member of our YouTube members community, which you also pay for, you will also get a discount on it as well. But let's talk to Marilyn Hawes, who was one of the stars of the show last Wednesday. Marilyn, great to see you. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. And my tiara has gone back in its box.
Excellent, excellent. Well, you can get it out and polish it again soon. There it is. What a great... I mean, I know that we've seen each other. We saw each other last Thursday for Plonk of the Week the day after, but I don't remember much of that because I only had about 3 hours sleep. But it was a great night, wasn't it?
If Pooch, darling, are you having a midlife crisis? I'm just wondering if that's...
I think he is, because one, he's decided that as the new Keir Starmer, the charmer, is a sort of believable figure, and he now fancies Rachel Reeves, for heaven's sake. What's going on?
Maybe he's had a touch of that dark and stormy I bought him with you.
It's possible. Yeah. Funnily enough, I don't know what's happened to that bottle of rum. I think he's been necking it. I think for most of the morning. It's obviously why he's gone completely mad.
I think plonk and plank, you see the real me, but I've got to talk about my job this morning, which isn't going to be very funny. It's not amusing at all. Should have done it yesterday. The tech went all
I know.
wrong,
yes, we apologise for that. So do tell us. Give us your worst.
Well, it's the resignation of the two women. Look at my big fat face that's come out on that again.
Pooch is going to try and reduce that face for you.
Can you try and reduce?
Yeah, there you go.
I know. Stop it.
What's he doing? I think he's having
getting his own back because I said
he's
got a midlife crisis. That's
he
what
is.
he's doing.
I think he's on some new medication which might be messing about with his head.
You're right.
Anyway, sorry, go on.
What I wanted to say yesterday was about the resignations of Jessica Phillips, the horse, and Alex Davis-Jones, who was violence against women and girls. I've never heard of her. I mean, I do this job all the time. I have never heard of her, which shows how lack of impact she had. But, Jess Phillips jumping on the passing bus on the anti-Starmer thing, she really is an utter disgrace because she failed miserably. She can't blame him for her own failings and then try and take the moral high ground. She can't do that. She's done it, but she can't do it because, she was contradicting I don't like the word victims. I think some of them are survivors. Some will survive. Some haven't survived because sadly they've taken their own life. Some don't survive. And then having called them liars and being proved wrong, she knew that, and then she tried to narrow the inquiry, which of course is total destruction, and which of course we've had no update. I've been trying to look for any update. Now, on the 8th of June last year, both those women voted against the inquiry. Now, March this year, Phillips said that Chalmers Starmer was the best male colleague ever for being so big an ally against violence, women and girls. Well, now her letter of resignation says almost the exact opposite. But what have they done? They've replaced these two women with two more women that also voted against the inquiry. One being Natalie Fleet, never heard of her. Another one being Catherine Atkinson. Now, she didn't vote for the inquiry either. She's been a barrister for 17 years. So what? I mean, Starmer was a director of prosecution, Crown prosecution. And what a mess up he made of that. So being 17 years a barrister means nothing. But she has been given the job of Secretary of State for victims and violence against women and girls. And I mean, it's absolutely dreadful. I mean, if you remember talking about Chalmers Starmer, if you remember on and on and on, his mantra before the election was, smash the gangs, we're going to smash the gangs. He couldn't smash an egg. I mean, he's absolutely pathetic, absolutely pathetic. Now, what I do, this shows how bad this is. There was hardly any mention of it in the King's speech yesterday. It was almost glossed over. Oh, violence, women and girls. And on we went to another bit of my government will do. Well, this government's never going to, if they do everything that's on that list, they're never going to be getting to bed every night, are they? Because it's going to be so much work. But what I wanted to ask is, how can the King, or should the King, put it that way, should he have said things in the King's speech that were not in his manifesto, like digital ID? Should he have said that? Should he have only done the things that were in that manifesto? But let's look at how bad they are. So this is my job, sadly. I do it every day. I am looking and scrolling through the news channels all day, every day, for what is the black side of life, the dark side that I work on, right? So now we have currently 6 children under 16, actually age 14, who are currently missing, one of which is a boy. That, no mention from government, no mention from safeguarding anybody, is there? There are also 15 trials at the moment of rapes, sexual assaults against young girls, right? No one said anything. 13 of those are migrants, 2 are white men. And, it's just outrageous, absolutely outrageous. And what we'll find is these migrants will probably get suspended sentences. No mention of deportation, nothing. And it absolutely sucks. And I'm sick of it. I mean, it is dreadful. What does it tell us if they are replacing 2 women who did not vote for the inquiry? Are they replacing it again with 2 women that didn't? They want to cover up. They don't want the truth to come out. And this is, I honestly do believe that. And it is shocking.
And he made no reference to it, as far as I could see yesterday, at all, did he? In the King's speech, in terms of what we're planning to do going forward or anything like that. But also, when I thought about Jess Phillips yesterday resigning, I thought to myself, she could have resigned over a whole bunch of other things before this, right? She's now resigning on a point of principle because she doesn't think Keir Starmer's the right man to lead the country. Well, what about she should have resigned because actually, the government wasn't doing anything about the safeguarding of women and girls, and that she was actually encouraging members of her own community, to take part in various different, expositions of what they do, without actually punishing them at all. And also, what about Starmer hiring bloody Harriet Harperson, the woman who's now being put in charge of safeguarding women and girls, who doesn't even know what a woman is? Right?
But I mean, it's just absolute nonsense. It really is a nonsense. I mean, whether replacing him or I think we frankly need a general election, get the whole damn lot out, because I think they're utterly useless and they're just a bunch of liars. I think they're awful. And also, you think while she was in post, as was this other woman who I've never heard of, Alex Davis-Jones. Either of those two could have contacted, out of sheer empathy, could have contacted Siobhan White, who lost her daughter by that vile migrant who should never have been in the country because he failed asylum, and a host of other mothers whose children have been. No one wrote to Siobhan, and because I'm in contact with her quite a lot, it is appalling. Either of those women, on a basis of, look, we're mums, we're women, you know, we support you. It's just outrageous. It's outrageous. And the man is he is a total plank. I mean, whatever happens today. But, you know, while all this is going on, you know, there's two massive wars going on in the world, where all this schmozzle is going on. Sort yourselves out, for good's sake. It's just, it's such an embarrassment to the rest of the globe. We really are. It's frightening, quite honestly. And as you say as well, that the loss of freedom of speech, letting any old geezer come in without a passport, illegal migrant, no passport, no paperwork. What's going to happen? What is going to happen with the migrants if we have digital ID? How's he going to get around that one?
I know. Well, he doesn't have a clue, does he? The bloke is a busted flush. He needs to go sooner rather than later.
The person who's going to be doing all this, here's the thing, is the son of Tony Blair.
Yeah, I know.
Who's going to be
extraordinary. Absolutely extraordinary. Well, don't worry. I think he's got a daughter-in-law running something as well now, hasn't he? He's got some other AI business going on. It's just the whole thing's a racket. It's a bloody racket. Listen, Marilyn, we've got to run because we're running slightly late, but great to see you. Marilyn's bedroom, says RMF. I've just gone to heaven. Is it your bedroom or is it the spare room?
It's my spare bedroom because my dog is downstairs snoring, and she's the same age as Ziggy, and she's like.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. That's very noisy. Yeah, I know what that's like. Absolutely right. Brilliant. Fantastic.
This stuff really depresses me, and that's why I love Plonk of the Week. So please get me back on.
We will get you back on soon. Don't worry. It's all going to be happening. Lovely to see you. Marilyn Hawes there.
Stop it.
Reporting in from the xenophobic village. Yeah, have a good one. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. See you later.
About the xenophobic village, it's unbelievable. Their pettiness is unbelievable. Have I got 1 minute to tell you? Right?
Go on then. Go on. Hurry up.
Our local restaurant has taken down. They've taken down a fence, and there was builders there. And what are they doing? 23 messages around the village WhatsApp. What is going on? Does anybody know what he's doing? What is going on? What is going on? What's happening? I want to know. I need to know what's going on. He owns the blooming restaurant. Pooch, stop it. and anyway, I just said, why don't you just ask him? You know, they're getting their neck in a knot. And I think, there's a life outside this village. And all he was doing was taking down the rotten wood and putting up metal. No one, I mean, this is what they like. They're just such whingers. It's awful.
Oh, I know. The pedants. Well, listen, we suffer from the same problem here. Pedants all the time. Moaning about the clocks, moaning about the fact that the Mike Graham show sign isn't right, you know, for heaven's sake. Anyway, listen, great to see you. Watch out for the local restaurant fence as you walk around the xenophobic village. Marilyn Hawes there, thank you very much indeed. We're going to talk now, I think, to Jamie Jenkins, who is in, of course, Wales for us. We've got some GDP figures out this morning, Jamie. Very good morning to you. What do you got for us?
Yeah, and I think Pooch is obsessed with Marilyn's eyes, I think. That's why he was zooming in. He's transfixed by them, I think.
He's transfixed by a lot of things this morning. He's transfixed by Keir Starmer, the charmer, who apparently has now won him over with his new kind of image as being Mr. Nice Guy. And he's even started fancying Rachel Reeves. Rachel's an 8-pinter, says Swiss Tony.
Well, hopefully, Mike, you pull a coup off, because I saw the story this morning. I mean, that Angela Rayner conveniently has been cleared by HMRC. Yeah. That's quite convenient. So
yeah, that's fun, isn't it? And also, apparently, without any penalty whatsoever. Now, as I was saying earlier, I missed a VAT payment once because my accountant didn't remind me, and I was busy and I forgot. And it was a month late, and they fined me £1,000.
Yeah, you haven't got a ginger growler, Mike, to get after them.
Thanks very much indeed for that. I don't know what's going on this morning. I think everybody's taking the new tablets. Anyway, so GDP, pretty useless, isn't it?
No, so the figures actually aren't as bad as they've normally been in recent months, Mike. And Reeves obviously has come out. She's been silent, I think, non-existent. I saw her; she was looking quite upset yesterday in the Houses of Parliament. I think she could see that we know as soon as Starmer's gone, she's pretty much gone as well. So she's kind of counting down the days to the end of her political career as well, I would imagine, Mike. But so yeah, GDP's grown about 0.6% in the first quarter of the year, which is better than we've been seeing. She's come on now this morning saying we're on the right economic plan, but when you scratch beneath the surface of the figures, Mike, industry still kind of fragile, production's only marginally up. They talked, didn't they, about, I think, Angela Rayner when she was the housing minister or Secretary of State for Housing. They came in with this big promise of we're going to build, we're going to get new houses, but on the construction side of things, there's not a lot new builds going on. In fact, new construction's down, Mike. What we're seeing is repair and maintenance going up, and probably they'll be repairing and maintaining Downing Street when they change the Prime Minister soon as well. I imagine on that. But growth is leading it a bit, Mike. So yeah, better than expected. But this isn't some magic recovery where Reeves is talking.
But this is the thing. I mean, it's tiny numbers, isn't it? It's less than 1%. So I mean, give or take the margin of error, it might not even be accurate.
Well, they normally will revise them, Mike. But I think the key thing on the GDP figures, we've had the new numbers this morning, but I was putting Starmer's speech the other day where he was basically blaming Brexit for us all being worse off.
Yeah.
And only a good indicator of living standards, obviously, is GDP growth. So if the economy is growing, everybody's feeling better off from it. And he's blaming Brexit and blaming Farage and everything. Basically, the whole country's in a mess because of everything other than himself. And so I crunched some of the numbers this week, Mike. And if you go back to the Brexit vote, I think it was the second quarter of 2016. So that's when we literally voted to leave. It was a few years because of the carnage in Parliament to actually leave. But if we look at GDP figures for some of the key European countries, Mike, since then, so we've grown. Up until the end of last year, we'd grown about 12%, 12.1% since the Brexit vote. France, marginally ahead at 12.5%, but Italy's behind us on 10.1%. And they always say Germany, isn't it? It's the powerhouse, it's the bastion of the European Union. That's only grown 6%. So he's absolutely gaslighting the public by blaming Brexit. And it's not just him. You'll get all the people on the left keep saying Brexit is to explain all our problems or Brexit. But, I come on the show with you, we talk about hard facts. GDP, we're in line with many of the European countries. We're behind many countries outside the European Union. So when Starmer keeps blaming bloody Brexit for everything, he needs to look in the mirror and blame himself.
Yeah, exactly right. Because he ends up just sounding like one of those left-wing radio hosts who just goes banging on about Brexit all the time and saying, well, it was the big mistake that Nigel Farage convinced us to go for, and, it's all his fault that our economy's in the toilet. And you go, well, apart from the fact that the actual referendum was 10 years ago, and we've had plenty of time to either correct whatever was wrong, and also we've got plenty of ability to look at Europe and look at European currencies and look at European economies to see that they're in much worse shape than we are, and it's got nothing to do with Brexit at all. But, what about the question that came up there from Peter, who sent a message in to say, is the higher cost of fuel having any effect on GDP?
So it's only, these figures are current in January to March, so there'll be a little bit of an impact in the March figures.
Okay.
So it's going to have more of an impact now as we go into the second quarter, which we'll get those figures in about 3 months. But you're right with these left-wing commentators who all blame Brexit. And you just think the competence of the government, it seems like a lifetime ago now, Mike, but remember we had Theresa May as Prime Minister. I think Starmer was bad enough. She weren't much better either when you think about it, because we never really had a proper Brexit. And Boris Johnson didn't have a clue what he was doing. Sunak didn't have a clue what he was doing. So when you think of all the things that you could do when you've left the European Union, we spend so much time with this current government thinking about, how can we have closer ties to the European Union? We're not really going out there thinking, what does a sovereign nation on its own now been able to do? So if we had a proper Brexit, the figures would look probably better than what they are. And then going back to Reeves, Mike, where they're saying, the right economic plan. Well, and you touched about it on the show, I think, this week as well. Let's look at these gilt yields as well. So to the layperson, what is it? Why do we even care about the gilt yield? So what they are, Mike, is basically it's what the government has to pay in interest rates to borrow money. And the UK is worse than countries like Greece at the moment. We're higher. They've gone up and up and up and up. So the 10-year gilt has basically gone up the highest since the financial crisis in 2008. The 30-year gilt, which is a good indicator of confidence in the government, that's at the highest since 1998. Remember, funnily enough, Mike, 1998 and 2008 is when we had governments basically where we were in absolute carnage in terms of where we were, and the Labour administrations. And why this matters is they kept blaming Liz Truss for when we had that mini budget and the gilt went up, but they're higher now than they were under Liz Truss.
Yeah, of course.
So you can't blame Liz Truss for economic incompetence and government incompetence and not even mention that's why she's pretty quiet at the moment.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, we're hoping to get her on the show in the next few days, so we'll get her take on that as well. Just quickly before I let you go, Plaid Cymru became the largest party in the Senedd last week, so they've started to run their government the way they want to run it. How's it going so far?
Yeah, so Marilyn was talking about Alex Davis-Jones, and she said she'd never heard of her, but she's my local MP, Mike, I think.
Oh, really?
She covers the area, and so basically, I think one of the reasons she's resigning is because of the election results we had in Wales last week. So Labour only returned 9 members.
Right.
And I'm in the Pontypridd, Cynnon Merthyr area, where it's a bastion of Labour area. If you can't win the valleys, basically, Mike, you're not going to do anything. And they've absolutely tanked them. And Plaid Cymru have come in and done really well in the valleys, and they've done well, obviously, across all of Wales, which bodes well for them, actually, as we go into potentially a general election. Because if you look across the country, Plaid Cymru, because the way the elections in Wales work, Mike, it's all like proportional and you get allocated seats. But Plaid won around 11 of the 16 constituencies from a Westminster election. Could see a good return for them. But yeah, so they've announced all of their ministers yesterday. So I think there's been a bit of a kind of hoo-ha in Wales at the moment because the Tory party try to put up. You think of the Speaker of the House of Commons, where we have kind of a Speaker of the Welsh Parliament as well, and the Conservatives try to get one of their members in, but it was a bit of a stitch up there, claiming that basically Plaid Cymru and Labour have been working quite close for the last 20 odd years. Well, we had the Deputy First Minister, because Eluned Morgan, obviously the First Minister, lost her seat. The Deputy First Minister, he's been re-elected, but now he's the Speaker of the Welsh Parliament. So they think it's a bit of a stitch-up because Plaid helped to get him in there. But it'll be interesting to see what goes on, Mike. If Plaid Cymru, I wrote about this on my Substack, and as well as the Starmer and the Reeves stories this week. So people want to get across the stats, jamie.co.uk. They can delve into what I'm talking about a little bit more. I'd appreciate the support there. But I think what we've got, Mike, is if Plaid Cymru just show some steady hands over the next 5 years or 4 years, I think they could be in for a generation like the SNP. Hopefully they don't screw up Wales more than Labour did, Mike, but it's one of those watching briefs.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Jamie, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Enjoy the week, the rest of it, what's left of it. We've got lots to do this morning. We've got Sarah Pochen to talk to, Misley Mandarin over in the Chagos Islands. Greg Swenson's coming in from Republicans Overseas. Sharon Davis from the House of Lords, of course. Baroness Davis. Helen Dale's going to be here as well. We're going to talk about the whole banning of people coming to the United Kingdom march from overseas. Many of them actually elected representatives, right? In terms of the way that things are panning out. I've got a note here from Charlotte. Have you seen it, Pooch? To talk to Sarah first.
Okay.
Can we do that?
Yeah, we can do that.
I think Sarah is she?
Yes, she's there.
She is. So let's say a very good morning to Sarah Pochen. Sarah, very good morning to you.
Hi, Mike. How are you doing?
I'm very well indeed. You're in that glorious kitchen again, aren't you? Very nice to see you.
I am the kitchen that never gets used.
Yeah, I know. I've got some bad news for you though. Pooch has gone a bit mad this morning, right? He's looked at Keir Starmer's performance yesterday and gone, if he was like this all the time, people would really like him. He was friendly, he was charming, he was funny, he was engaging. He was completely unlike the normal Keir Starmer that we've seen for the best part of the last sort of 2 years. You know, Mr. Process and Mr. Straight and all of that. But I'm not falling for it. I think it's a complete and utter act. I think Starmer's now just trying to make himself look like the garrulous character that everybody wants to get rid of, but actually he's better off running the country than Wes Streeting would be. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I'm not buying it. What about you?
I just think that he comes across so insincere, doesn't he? And
Yeah.
the British people really genuinely do not understand what the Prime Minister stands for. And that's one of the main reasons that this election result has been the way it's been for him in the local elections. You know, the absolute collapse of the Labour vote in places like mine in the northwest.
Yeah.
We've seen huge sways, haven't we, of the Labour vote collapsing en masse. I mean, that election night was just incredible, seat after seat after seat falling. But it's all because the British people know that this Prime Minister doesn't have the courage of his convictions. In fact, what does he believe in?
Well, we don't really know what he believes in because over the years he's believed in pretty much everything. A bit like Andy Burnham. Somebody was, we had William Yarwood in this morning from Taxpayers Alliance saying Andy Burnham, over the course of time, has been a Blairite, he's been a Corbynite, he's been a Starmerite. Now he's, supposedly the independent mayor of Manchester. But, all of these characters like Wes Streeting and Andy Burnham and Angela Rayner, who miraculously has managed to solve her tax problem this morning, not one of them, in my view, is fit to tie the laces of Nigel Farage, and certainly none of them should be Prime Minister.
Look, I mean, when you think about this Prime Minister, and none of the others that could succeed him will be any better, if not potentially far worse. But this Prime Minister has created or decimated the jobs market for young people. I mean, youth unemployment now is 16%. That's 18 to 24-year-olds. Why? Because businesses just won't hire. It's too risky now with the Workers' Rights Bill, with the increase in the minimum wage, with the increase of national insurance contributions. It is too risky. And I've held business breakfasts in the constituency, and businesses tell me they have stopped hiring. Well, an economy will never grow when businesses stop hiring. But not only that, this Prime Minister has created an economy where it pays to be on benefits and not to go out to work each day. It is taxing the British, anyone that does go out and work, the hardworking British alarm clock Brit, as we call them, he's taxing them to breaking point.
Yeah.
So what incentive is there for this economy to grow? It's never going to grow. That as soon as businesses stop hiring, stop expanding, then there's no hope for the economy. But it's more than that, isn't it, Mike? It's the emotive stuff that people care about. His constant reluctance to stop this prosecution of our brave veterans. That really upsets the British public. His reluctance to speak out about the grooming gangs, to speak up for the safety of women and girls, which he pays lip service to. But somebody like me challenges him constantly in the chamber on, and he has no answers to. Women and children are afraid in this country now. They can see equality going down the pan if we don't change the trajectory that we are on. So in so many different areas, whether it's economic, whether it's growth, whether it's the veterans' defence, women and children, he's letting people down.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. And I'm not sure how long he can keep up this facade of being, Mr. Nice Guy, Starmer the Charmer, as we've been calling him this morning. Because at the end of the day, he's in a place, and we had Jeff Banks in here yesterday, the sort of iconic fashion designer, who said, any decent man would just walk away from the job, because when you're that unliked, when you're that unsuccessful, when you look around and you realise that actually nobody thinks you can do the job, and you sort of know in your own head that you can't do the job, you should just walk away. But I mean, he seems to be incredibly thick-skinned in that sense. I mean, he's thin-skinned in lots of other ways. But how do we get him out, I suppose, is the question.
Well, of course, we talk about the markets, don't we? We have currently the bond market at the, I think, nearly 6%. I mean, interestingly, it was 4.5% under Liz Truss. This is the interest rates, obviously, that I'm talking about here in the 10-year sort of gilt market. Under Liz Truss, it went up to 4.5%, and we called it a crisis. And the markets all, clutched their pearls, and Liz Truss was out. Well, here we are, approaching 6%. And yet the markets have not called time yet, have they? But how far can this government push the markets? But look, the fact is, whoever comes after him, I see no evidence of any of them. All the list I just sort of ran down quickly there of the areas that he betrays the British people on. I can't see any evidence of any of the contenders being any different. And look, I'll tell you what, we've just had these local elections, haven't we? I spent days and days and days actually you can imagine, knocking on doors in the Northwest. And like it or not, the number one issue that those people in very deprived areas who are struggling, the number one issue is immigration. And this government, this Prime Minister has done nothing to stop the boats, nothing, like the
No.
Tories before him. But the point is, which one of the contenders coming forward is going to be any different? None of them. None of them have a policy on stopping the boats. And so that is the number one issue on the doorstep because, and I tell you why, because people feel that when they are on a housing list, a waiting list for months, if not years, and they watch illegal asylum seekers coming into areas like Runcorn, going straight into new properties, they feel utterly betrayed. It's unfair. And that's what, the voters care about. They care about fairness.
But that's going to get worse, isn't it? Because, we've got a government now which is determined to get people out of hotels so they can boast that, we're not paying for all these hotels anymore, without actually explaining, the reason you're getting them out of hotels is to put them into, HMOs or to put them into houses in communities. And but the problem is, though, for me, is that when you talk to the backbenchers or you hear what the backbenchers of the Labour Party say, they actually think that Shabana Mahmood's too tough on immigration. They want her to soften her approach to, indefinite leave to remain. They want her to make it easier for people to come here, make it easier for them to bring their families here. We saw just earlier in the week, I think it was, the most ludicrous story I think I've seen this year, which is that the Department of Work and Pensions will now pay you more money if you've got more than one wife on benefits. And you're going to go, sorry, what's going on?
So hold on. So that policy itself, I do not understand, as someone with a legal background, how that even stacks up, because the principle of polygamy, is it? I think that's what you call it when a man has more than one wife, is illegal in this country. Okay, so how do we then have a benefit system which plays into the hands and supports something that is effectively illegal
rewards you
in this country? I don't understand how that's possible. So, and what concerns me, Mike, is again. Quietly, insidiously, this parallel legal system is creeping up in this country, and this example of polygamy and the benefits, we are endorsing it, but it is all about also allowing the slow creep of Sharia law, Sharia courts, the suppression of women. It's all tied up. For goodness sake, we are Great Britain, and we are saying it's okay for a man to have more than one wife, and we will pay him for that. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of men out there who might think that that's quite a good idea. I'm sure there's also a lot of men that think it would be a disastrous idea.
I've been saying this all week. I don't know. I've had wives, one wife, and one's more than enough. Frankly, I don't really want more than one at a time. Thank you very much indeed. Pooch, unfortunately, Pooch has gone so mad this morning that he's now starting to fancy Rachel Reeves, because even she was smiling yesterday as well.
My goodness, Pooch, hang on. I feel let down there.
I know.
I thought I was his favourite.
I've sent him. He says you're still number one. I'm sending you on holiday because he's obviously needs a break. He's clearly been working too hard. But it is mad, isn't it? Where you've got this whole kind of culture of people who. And in a way, I don't blame the actual individuals who are claiming benefits, because if it's worth your while to make more money by not working, why would you work? There's no incentive, is there?
I have businesses in Runcorn that I've visited that say people come to them, prospective employees, and say, well, I can give you 12 hours. I can give you 12 hours a week, but I can't give you any more because that affects my benefits payments. So we are living in this culture where not only businesses won't hire young people, this Labour Party has destroyed the whole apprenticeship model because businesses won't take a risk. But not only that, because of the culture of benefits, then people won't even go and offer more than 12 hours a week. How have we created this situation? It has to change. And of course, the backbench Labour MPs that we talk about, in their ivory towers, in their Westminster bubbles, I'm sorry, but they have no desire whatsoever to change the benefit system.
Right.
They rejoice in lifting the two-child benefit cap, which is ridiculous. So now, again, we've gone back to those days where it pays to have more and more children because the state will look after them. Absolutely not acceptable. We've got to get a government in, and none of the prospective candidates that will follow Keir, because he clearly is going, none of them that will come in will do any will be any tougher. If not, they're going to be worse, aren't they? Let's face it. Angela
Yeah.
Rayner is further to the left. Andy Burnham's got to win his seat anyway. But listen, I'll tell you, as a girl that is from the Northwest, Andy Burnham is not as popular
No.
as the Westminster bubble actually make out that he is. He's got to win a seat. And I would say there is no safe Labour seat left in the Northwest. So we will give him a really good run for his money wherever he chooses to stand. So that's not a done deal, Mike.
No,
And then, of
I agree
course,
with you. I mean, there was a suggestion last night, and I can't remember exactly which constituency it is, but I think it's somewhere around Manchester where a Labour MP has said that he would willingly give up his seat if Andy Burnham wanted to take it. But as you say, there's no guarantee that he wins it.
none at all. I mean, I looked at something that said the safest bet for them would be Bootle, which is Merseyside. And yeah, you know, he can give it a go. But we have a lot of support in Liverpool now. You know, don't assume. And that's what the Labour Party have done. And that has been their downfall, is they have taken what they believed were their core areas for granted. You know, and the historic win that we had in Runcorn and Helsby a year ago was a classic example of that. They just assumed that they would win that seat. And no, there's no safe Labour seat anymore. So we've got Andy Burnham in a situation he's got to choose carefully where he wants to stand, because can you imagine if Andy Burnham does not win a by-election? Oh my goodness.
Yes.
That is, so it's high risk for the Labour Party. And then of course we have Wes Streeting, who, as you know, I have come up against recently in the last few months, because I've campaigned hard on stopping his crazy and shameful puberty blocking trial into young children, which, look, he championed. You know, how could we have someone as Prime Minister who was prepared to sanction human experimentation on children as young as 5, 6, 7? Absolutely disgraceful. We can't have a Prime Minister like that. And just to finish on Wes, I think there's probably more baggage to come out, don't you, from the whole Peter Mandelson stuff?
Oh, no question. No question. Well, I find it very difficult to see him as prime ministerial material anyway, because I just don't think he's clever enough. I don't think he's rounded enough. I don't think he's got anything really about him. He's a bit of a, what I would call, snake oil salesman. You know, he's a sort of guy that you wouldn't want to buy anything from at a car boot sale. You know, you kind of go, oh, I'm not sure about him. I found the seat, by the way. Andy Burnham apparently has been talking to a guy called Afzal Khan, who is the current incumbent in Manchester Rusholme. I don't know what part of Manchester that is, but that's the seat supposedly that they've identified. But no, you're quite right. And you know, Angela Rayner, of course, who's now going around sort of making out that she put a statement out saying that she was horrified to discover that apparently she owed some tax that she didn't know about. You know, and I said to somebody today, you know, when you buy a house, you don't go, oh, I should have hired a load of tax advisors to find out whether I had to pay any stamp duty. You know you have to pay stamp duty. That's part of buying a house. You know, the idea that she's kind of trying to go, oh, it was shocking when I discovered that I hadn't paid the tax and I didn't want people to think that I was somehow trying to swindle anybody. Oh, really? Well, I'm sorry. That's how it looks.
But I did think yesterday, I mean, I had my first King's speech yesterday. Oh my goodness, Mike, I've got to tell you about it. What an incredible experience. I managed to get myself into the Lord's Chamber. And it's the first time I've ever been in the presence of the King and Queen, obviously.
King, right,
Of the King, and I had a great view. I could see everything, and it was an incredibly humbling and overwhelming experience. It actually brought a tear to my eye, and I'll tell you, that's not easy, Mike. I have a core of steel, but yeah, you know, what an occasion to have always watched on the television and suddenly found myself in the room. But that aside, I did think, my goodness, here we are, King Charles. What an incredible job he's done for us recently. recently in America. Thank goodness, saving that special relationship because, of course, we have a Prime Minister and the Conservatives before them, 14 years of the Conservatives who have not put the defence of this country first. And without the Americans, as I keep saying, we are utterly defenceless. And so we need the Americans. And didn't King Charles do a wonderful job on his recent visit? But
He did.
yesterday, I was watching our wonderful monarch give a speech, which effectively the content of which, as I picked it to pieces, was shocking. The Prime Minister, through the King, was advocating for energy security. He has literally decimated this country's core ability to be energy self-sufficient on the altar of net zero. He talked about being defence being a priority. Well, it's about time. Let's hope it is, because we've still got a warship that hasn't even made it to the Strait of Hormuz, as far as I'm aware. And as regards putting the Navy in the Channel, do we have a Navy that we can put in the Channel to turn around these inflatable boats?
Exactly.
And then finally, he said he would promote business. And as I said, he's done everything, every policy he's brought through is about destroying business. They want to destroy the wealth creators. That we are watching the wealth creators leave this country. Those that pay the most tax, those that take the risks, those that employ people and create jobs, they're leaving this country. So I was listening to that King's speech with my head in my hands, thinking this is all utter nonsense.
Absolutely right. And the main plank of it, of course, was his absolute and utter, sort of supplicant behaviour towards the European Union, which we voted to leave, which he seems to want to drag us back into, which makes no sense at all. And the other thing about the Navy that you mentioned there is that, he keeps banging on about, we made the right decisions about not going to war with Iran, we made the right big political decisions, we got those all right. And he's now talking about sending ships into the Straits of Hormuz, which the Iranians have said will be considered to be a hostile act. He keeps saying we're not at war. Well, he's apparently taking us into one, isn't he?
Well, here we go again, don't we? We have a Prime Minister that the British people don't understand what he stands for. Is he against the war, or is he going to send what small ability we do have over there to assist? To me, it's all words. It's just it's white noise, Mike. It's playing. All he wants to do is suck up to the European Union, to those leaders there, and I think Keir Starmer would ideally, and the Labour Party would ideally like to see some kind of European army. They've never made any. They've never tried to hide that fact. And of course, someone like myself wants to see us as an island be utterly self-sufficient when it comes to being able to defend ourselves. And listen, I was listening to David Davis yesterday responding in the House to the King's speech, and he made that point that the easiest way to stop war, to prevent war, to make sure we never go to war is the ability to defend ourselves. And that is what we must rebuild. And it takes years, of course. It's not a quick fix. Years and years of decline of all of our armed forces will take years and years to rebuild, but we have to make it a priority. And another thing, one of the ultimate betrayals is, of course, of our veterans, and that stops attracting people to want to come and join our armed forces. And I say this fact time and time again. Just think about the fact that under this Prime Minister, more young fighting age males have entered this country than we actually have an army ready to go into war if we had to. That is a frightening statistic, which means that we can't actually currently defend ourselves from the threat within, let alone on an international stage.
I know. Absolutely shocking. David Davis, by the way, what a great MP he is. He'd be a fantastic addition to the reform team if you could persuade him to jump ranks, but wouldn't he?
Well, look, according to Nigel, the deadline was the 7th of May last week, the polling day for the local elections. So, in theory, that's it. They've missed the boat. let's use that analogy.
Yes.
As we're talking about votes, they've missed the boat, and it's too late if they wanted to join. But of course, we want to make sure that Reform is a party of business people, is a party of people that speak common sense, like myself. We don't don't want to gather up. I'm not saying David Davis, of course, is dead wood. I have huge respect for him, but we don't want to gather up the dead wood that is the Conservative Party. You know, they're clearly finished for at least 10 years. It doesn't matter how much the media spin Kemi doing a good job. You know, the fact is that the Tories had 14 years in power and have left us in so many areas completely lacking, and people will not forgive that.
No, I don't think they will. The one constant, though, thing about Parliament, and I was my cockles were warmed by this morning, was Ed Davey, who manages to clear a room faster than you can say Lib Dem, waste of space. Have a look at this little clip. Ed Davey, who didn't think the King should have gone to America, by the way. Check it out.
The leader of the Liberal Democrats, Sir Ed Davey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and may I start by giving my sincere thanks to His Majesty.
I just love that. Ed Davey, right, we're off. Brilliant.
Well, listen, I've genuinely not quite worked out what the point of the Liberal Democrats are, to be honest. I don't know what they stand for other than wanting to go back into Europe. That's all that they want. That's their only manifesto policy, from what I can make out. But yes, it was a little bit embarrassing, a bit toe curling, that, wasn't it?
It really was. Very funny, though. Anyway, Sarah, listen, great to see you. Appreciate you spending some time with us, and have a lovely weekend as it is coming up. And we will see you very soon, hopefully.
Thanks very much, mate. Take care.
Sarah, thanks very much indeed. Sarah Poachin there, brilliant. Lovely to see her. We were hoping to get her on this week. So it's a big week for Reform, of course, because they are now taking control of so many councils up and down the country. And we'll take stock of that, actually, the next time we talk to people from Reform, perhaps next week. Richard Tice, Nigel Farage, Danny Kruger, all manner of people, Cirella Braverman, so many different people that we can talk to now from Reform, who are very happy to come on the show here, because, of course, it is the biggest YouTube breakfast show in the UK now, and we've been running incredible numbers this week, by the way, 100,000 per day. Without even thinking about some of the other numbers that we're doing. We've busted through 20 million. We're already at 20 million and a half now, so I think we'll be at 21 million probably by next week. And 160,000 beautiful subscribers. So if you haven't done it yet, please do subscribe, because so many of you watch the show, but you don't subscribe to it. And you don't have to pay any money. It doesn't cost any money. You just subscribe on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, because it helps us to build the numbers up, which then helps us with the algorithms, which helps us to lead more people to see the show who might not know about it. And therefore the whole thing begins to build on itself, if you know what I mean. And that will also help us, of course, with the new channel, UK Live Online, which we'll be switching over to at around about 9:30 today to speak to Helen Dale, and hopefully that will work, because we've had a few teething problems, because that's what happens when you try and do new things. So do bear with us, and I know that you're very patient, so thank you very much indeed. The one story we haven't talked about, which I just want to mention quickly, is on the front page of the Times, which is the Duke of Sussex speaking out about the rising tide of anti-Semitism, but also appearing to criticise Israel for acting, in his words, without accountability and in ways that raise serious questions under international humanitarian law. He's obviously been wound up by his wife. Harry warned that British Jews had experienced hostility and violence because concerns about Gaza and wider conflict in the Middle East had become dangerously conflated with their communities. He described the rise in anti-Semitism across the country as deeply troubling, but he also implicitly criticised Israel, claiming its actions had inflamed tensions, which is, of course, the kind of thing that you'd expect him to do, because he's an idiot. He doesn't understand the nuances of international politics. Keep your hell out of it, matey, because you don't understand. I mean, you literally couldn't even read the front page of the Times. You're that thick. So I'd rather you didn't actually proselytise on the subjects at hand. This from Stig. Hugh's calling you Mick and Pooch got a crush on rabid Rachel. It's not just Starmer that needs sacking, Mike. Well, listen, sometimes people just need a holiday. You know, it's as simple as that. And sometimes, you know, working under stress for months at a time without having a break can send you loopy. And I think, you know, in Pooch's case, that may be what's happened.
What might go for Chagos?
Chagos Islands would be great, wouldn't it? Should we go over there now? Yeah. Misley Mandarin is there. He is, of course, the leader of the Chagos Island people. He's a fantastic guy. We love to have him on the show, and we're sorry to have kept you waiting, Misley, because we just had to get Sarah Poachin quickly squeezed in there because she had to run off and do something else. You're looking very, very well. How are things? Oh, can't hear him.
Yeah, we're doing very well, but it could be better. It could
Yes.
be the British government take responsibility for something they done in the 60s and 70s and rebuild our house.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, last time you and I spoke, I said to you, have you got a message for Keir Starmer? What would you like him to do? And you said he should resign, right? And now everybody else in Britain also wants him to resign. Everybody else in the world, I think, expects him to resign. But what is the current status of your land situation? You know, because you're living there with difficult circumstances. You might not have that much water. You might have water purification problems and all of that. Has anything changed in the last month or so since we last spoke?
So the only thing with Keir Starmer, not only resign, but he have to call a general election as well, because any replacement come in, the situation on Chagos Island was still the same. But Keir Starmer, he's the author of the Chagos deal. So hopefully, if a new prime minister comes or general election, we're going to have a clearer idea how they're going to help to rebuild the life of Chagosian, who they destroyed. And that would be good for us. But water, the life on the island is okay. But the water, last week we got a lot of rain, so we managed to quote 500 liters of water. So that's going to help us through at least 2 weeks. But for now, we are okay for now.
Yeah, okay. Because the last time, again, we spoke, it was just before that, the authorities had stopped a boat bringing you purification systems and stopped, and they confiscated some mosquito nets and some bedding and things like that. Have you had any more aid coming your way? Have you had any more boats coming to the island to give you things?
No at all. We're still waiting. And one thing you have to remember, Mike, and your listener as well, we not only do that for our homeland, we do that for the British people as well. Because remember, Chagos Island is a British territory. That Keir Starmer government wants to stop that, make it Mauritian. And Mauritian is a close ally to China. So our sacrifice is not only for ourselves, it's for the British population and the US as well. Because the biggest military base in the Indo-Pacific for the UK and the US is the Garcia, which is 100 miles plus away from us. We are protecting this data. We got to protect this as well.
Absolutely right. And what about other political leaders in this country? Nigel Farage, I know, tried to come and see you, but he was stopped from coming onto the island. He was told he couldn't do it. Have you heard from him lately?
So for us, Reform UK and the Tory, even though the Tories start negotiation, they been a very good help. And Nigel always on call to Adam. Adam is very close to me, and always here. If any emergency, my first port of call will be Adam, and Adam will get Nigel, and we get things sorted. But they've been very good to us.
That's good, and that's Adam Holloway, of course, the former MP.
Yes.
In terms of what the legality situation is, because we know, for example, that Starmer would like to probably put on his bedpost another notch. You know, we managed to get rid of the Chagos Islands. You know, he's obsessed with it. Nobody knows why. Are you hopeful that if he goes soon, that you might have more of a chance to regain what it is that you want?
The Chagos Island is a tough cookie for Keir Starmer, because me as First Minister and my people as well, we are warriors, we are resilient. And if he goes, I don't see anyone who will take this shameful legacy from Starmer to bring it back to the Parliament. Remember, Keir Starmer served it. But if it goes, it will be very. I think I will celebrate. To be honest, to be truthfully to you, Mike, I will celebrate if Keir Starmer said he's resigning.
Yeah. We'll all be celebrating, Misley. You know, I'll be celebrating. We're going to have a massive party here in London if that was to happen. And in terms of what we've been told from Lord Kempsell, for example, I don't know whether you know about Ross Kempsell. He's been very active in the House of Lords. I mean, his view was the last time I spoke to him that this bill will never come back to the House of Lords. The bill has now died, and so therefore, hopefully. You will be able to continue to live there. You will be able to continue to remain British, and it's all going to go away. Do you feel like that?
The only time when the bill is dead but need to be buried is when Keir Starmer leave this government. Keir Starmer resign, and that shameful deal goes with him, and that. I'm pretty sure that where I will celebrate when that deal. And those are things as well you have to remember. We can't depend on the philanthropists to help us. The British government have to take responsibility and get the Foreign Office to work its magic or its whatever you call it, and stop helping us and helping the Chagosian to resettle. And it is very important. And that will give a big signal to the world that the Chagosian want to stay British and they want the island to stay British.
Indeed. And I mean, in terms of what anybody here can do, because a lot of people asking me on the show today, can we do anything to help? Can people do anything to help? Can they contribute anything to you that you need?
So what we got a GoFunding, right? And that we're always a welcome because even though the British government did whatever to us, but we still feel like it's our responsibility as well to chip in and to make it like a big British community help. And any help, please read the story, check all the story about the Chagos Island, about myself as well. The fight we've been doing since February when we came on the island, what Adam Holloway did for us as well. And then you have a bigger understand how important British overseas territory is for the whole UK.
Yeah, absolutely right. Well, if you can give us the link, send it off to Charlotte, our producer. We'll get it up for you, and we'll get you on next week, and we'll do a fundraiser for you, and get some money coming your way, which would be brilliant. And meanwhile, what's the we've got? By the way, behind me, you probably can't see it, but there's a clock behind me. But there's two clocks. One of them is on Chagos Island's time, because we want to keep remembering the fact that you guys are there. It is. So 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Chagos Island's time. So what does the rest of the day hold for you? What do you do the rest of the day?
So we got a routine. So we got 6 people on the island, and my dad, who is in 70s, so he will do mainly light duties. But we got the younger one will go fishing. We're gonna clear the beach. We're gonna have single plastic use. Collect water. I'm gonna check the water as well, and we just organize our day. And the thing as well, Mike, I thank you to put the time of Chagos Island in your studio. And remember as well, Chagos Island belong to British as well. You can come when we see you the island. You can come and do your program here.
Yes, what I want to do. We want to do that.
Yeah, so that's the joy we're having when we do this fight. The fight is not only for us, but it's all for the British values. And I'm a Christian as well, and the Christian values is there as well.
Absolutely brilliant. Well, listen, Misley, we salute you as ever. You're looking as strong as ever, which is good. We will talk to you next week. We'll get something organised. We'll get some fundraising done, and we'll be thinking of you always, of course. And have a great day.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Good to see you, Misley Mandarin. What a great guy. We'll do a fundraiser, Pooch, shall we? This time next week, maybe, and we'll get him on. And we should go down there, shouldn't we? I fancy it. I fancy going there for a week.
Yeah, maybe we take a gang of Mark Rain fans with us.
We could do that, actually, yeah, because maybe we could do a live show on the beach. Yeah. Can you imagine? a nighttime live show on the beach with, I can see it now, with kind of oil drums on fire, which would light the kind of light the arena, if you like. People sitting there with their. We could have a barbecued fish.
We could also have some of these.
Oh yeah, Keir's cocktails. These are the. This is the poll today. What would you give Keir as a passing cocktail as he's on his way out of Downing Street? 1, the Islington arse. 2, I can't believe these. The backdoor Ukrainian. 3, a Keir wallbanger. And 4, Keir's sloppy exit. Goodness gracious me! And it looks as though I think it's the Keir wallbanger that's winning, isn't it? Is that right?
No, Ukrainian arse.
Is it the Ukrainian arse?
Yeah. Let's put it back.
Hang on, let's have another look, because I'll tell you what, the clock was in the way. Yeah. The backdoor Ukrainian, sorry, 45%. Very good.
I don't know what they mean by that.
I don't know either. But there is a backdoor at Downing Street. It goes into the garden. Take that as you will. Now, coming up in the next hour, Greg Swenson's going to be here from Republicans Overseas. We'll talk to him about Donald Trump's visit to China. Sharon Davis, of course, one of our favourite baronesses, is also going to be around. Helen Dale's going to be here to talk to us about freedom of speech and the way that this government is trying to clamp it down, particularly coming up to this weekend's big march and rally for Unite the Kingdom. But what we should do, is it before we do the news? Yeah. Before we do the news, have a look at what happened last Wednesday night. Which was at our great live show at the Shepherd's Bush Empire. We were able eventually to get somebody to film it, which they did, and here it is. You got to get rid of those pictures of Rachel Reeves.
Thank you to you for your big support.
In Parliament.
That was just last week.
I mean, just last week, yeah. See, a week's a long time in politics, they say.
It is.
The great thing about this story, I don't know if you saw it, was that apparently she was in the Strangers' Bar getting completely hammered, right? Yeah. Drinking all day, all night. And when she left, she walked into the door, right? And she had the dad take the door off and fix it because she did it such a big bit of damage because she's so clumsy, right? With those big clodhopper shoes.
And unfortunately, Dan Hodges, the journalist, was in Strangers' Bar at the time, so we saw it firsthand, and then wrote an article about it. Apparently, she was gobbing off about being a proud socialist. I'm a proud socialist.
Well, you do that thing so well, which was what I was hoping we'd get to there, where she's talking in quite an ordinary voice, and then suddenly she gets angry, right, and starts losing her shit.
Well, you know, it's Mike. It's because I'm trying to explain myself, and then I get to a point where I just think, do you know what? I've had enough. I don't see why I have to constantly explain myself over and over and over again. It's ridiculous. Sick of it.
The other one that I love that you do is Bridget Phillipson, because we were talking the other day when you were in the studio. Bridget Phillipson had a makeover in the Times. You know, the Times, which is now literally like, you know, the Labour Party, you know, manifesto. All they ever do is run stories that are positive about Labour. And if, you know, Keir Starmer wants to get a story out, he gives it to the Times. You know, like, Starmer's going to get tough on crime. And they're the only ones that run the story because nobody believes a bloody word the guy says, right? But Bridget Phillipson was kind of made up as if she was some kind of Hollywood temptress. Did you see it? I mean, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, she had a blowout.
A blowout?
It's called a blowout. Is that what it's... Well, that's what's going to happen tomorrow. So, to the Labour Party, because nobody's going to vote for us, but... yeah, it's...
Do you think Bridget might take a tilt at the leadership battle?
She can try. I don't think she'll get anywhere near it. I think it's going to be between our lands, get in there, and I think, and everyone's like, you are so wrong about this, but think about it. I think Yvette Cooper is going to swoop in.
Oh.
And here's my thought process. She's a bit like Starmer, isn't she? She's very boring. She's almost like their safe person because she's been in politics for a long time. She knows the game. She can say all the right things to all the right diplomats, and
she hardly ever says anything, though.
I know, but I mean, what do they want? They're either going to. It's like from the sublime to the ridiculous. They're either going to go with Crazy Ange, you know, gobbing off. Can you imagine her with Trump? Oh, come on. Please.
That would be
this
brilliant.
happen.
Yeah. You imagine on the phone to it. You could probably do that, actually. A phone call.
Hiya, Mr. President. Listen, look, I think we need to meet up. Can I?
That's Intel lady. She's on tomorrow, I think, according to Charlotte. Going to be talking to us as Angela Rayner, of course. Angela Rayner, inexplicably, this morning somehow has had her HMRC situation solved, and she's paid £40,000. Presumably she's just had it hanging around down the back of the sofa. They're not fining her. She's got no penalty whatsoever, which is extraordinary for the tax authorities. Because normally, as I said, I was late once paying my VAT bill by a month, and they charged me £1,000 of a fine. So I don't know how she's got away with it, but there we are. Coming up, Greg Swenson's here from Republicans Overseas. We'll talk to him about Donald Trump's visit to China. First time here in the studio. Welcome, Greg. Right now, though, let's get some news with Edward Hughes.
Good morning. I'm Edward Hughes. Over 80 Labour MPs have called for Starmer to resign or set a departure timetable, with several ministers urging an orderly exit. Health Secretary Wes Streeting is widely reported to be preparing a leadership challenge as early as today, potentially resigning to trigger a contest. Starmer has defied the pressure, insisting he will fight on and warning a leadership battle would bring chaos. Today's King's speech outlining the government's legislative agenda was overshadowed by the drama. Other headlines: a new UK-France deal aims to tackle small boat crossings with extra funding for French police and surveillance. Yeah, right. In sport, the Scottish Premiership title race is going to the final day after dramatic results. Manchester City narrowed the gap at the top of the Premier League. Please remember to like and subscribe. Laters Tigers, back to Mick.
Still saying it. Back to Mick. You've got to stop him saying that. I'm not having it. He's telling me he can't come to work tomorrow if he doesn't behave himself. Anyway, listen, Greg Swenson's here from Republicans Overseas. Welcome. Good to see you.
Mike.
Great to see you. I know you're spending more time in America these days, so we've been hopeful of getting you on for a while. We're going to talk about a great many things, including, of course, Donald Trump's current visit to China. Let's have a look. I think we've got a clip of Trump with President Xi yesterday.
Oh boy.
No? Go on. It's been a bit tricky today, hasn't it? It's playing up a bit.
Yeah. No, you just talk amongst yourselves.
We'll talk amongst ourselves. So anyway, how is America?
And a stable bilateral relationship is good for the world. China and the United States both stand to gain from cooperation and lose from confrontation. We should be partners, not rivals. We should help each other succeed and prosper together and find the right way for major countries to get along well with each other in the new era. Mr. President, I look forward to our discussions on major issues important to our two countries and the world, and working together with you to set the course for and steer the giant ship of China-U.S. relations so as to make 2026 a historic landmark.
We should be partners, not rivals, is the message from President Xi, which I guess Donald Trump would agree with. Quite a sort of high-risk strategy going over there at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and I think there's potential for. I saw a comment this morning that Xi's already brought up Taiwan and sort of made an issue of it. And so, but I think it's for President Trump to give Xi the opportunity to say, we're partners and we're the two global superpowers. Right. That's just kind of theater. Like I'm happy to give that one up because it doesn't really change anything.
No, it doesn't. And Trump hasn't been particularly nice about China lately, has he?
No,
particularly when talking about the Iranian situation. He knows that there's this kind of, he hasn't quite said the axis of evil that George Bush mentioned of Iran and Russia and China. Yeah. But he kind of insists that that's what we're dealing with.
That's right. I mean, he came out of the gates, second term with the tariffs, and he did the same thing with Russia. People, he was sending, Javelin missiles to Ukraine in his first term. He was putting sanctions on Russia. So he's not afraid to call these guys out when it's appropriate. He called out Putin for killing his own people in 1999. 4 presidents before him knew about that. And chose not to discuss it.
Sure. Well, we all know what happened in 2014 as well, when Russia went into Crimea and Barack Obama didn't do anything.
Absolutely.
Just went and watched it. Went, look what's happening over there. Which is extraordinary. But I mean, in terms of his domestic agenda, I suppose. I think I'm right in saying Elon Musk put out a tweet last night saying that he was on the way in Air Force One to China. So obviously there's a commercial aspect, presumably.
Definitely.
To
He brought
it as
some
well.
big tech bros.
Does that mean that Musk is kind of back in favour again?
Yeah, he's been for a while now. I
Okay.
mean, they had their little breakup about a year ago, I think.
Yeah.
And you know, the president, like, he kisses and makes up if it's, you know, something that suits.
Well, he's very, I mean, I think he's very admirable like that because, you know, most politicians are quite thin-skinned. I mean, we're looking at Keir Starmer now, who Pooch was very much enamoured by this morning. We're looking at him yesterday like a changed man. He was like suddenly Mr. Charmer, you know, Starmer the Charmer as opposed to Starmer the Harmer. I'm not buying it, by the way. I think he's just kind of trying to now try a different tactic.
Yeah.
But, I mean, most politicians, if they fall out with people, they never have them back in the tent. Whereas Trump seems to just be very... I don't know what the word is. He's just very practical.
You're right, and he, you know, he's not afraid to punch back when punched. But you know, he's got people that worked for him in the private sector in his business that he fired, and they're still good friends.
Yeah.
You know, he's okay with.
Yeah, right. I mean, I'm a bit like that. I mean, I remember when I was over at Talk, and there was a new guy coming in to run the station. And one of the execs said to me, "Oh, do you know this guy?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." I said, "He's a good friend of mine. He fired me once." And they went, "What? What do you mean?" But you know, that's the game we're in.
I mean, I worked on Wall Street. If you didn't get fired at least once in your life, you weren't doing your job.
Well, I've been fired 5 times. You know, each time
badge of honor.
It was, you know, never my fault. But anyway, but that was the thing. And also, you end up coming, especially at Wall Street and in newspapers and in the media, you end up meeting the same people.
Yeah.
So it's not worth falling out with people long term.
The world is 2 blocks long.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, how are you finding being back in America? Is it because you lived in London for quite a long time?
Yeah, for 10 years.
Yeah,
and you know, we weren't happy about leaving. You know, we had to leave because of the tax.
Because of the taxes.
Jeremy,
well, you know, join the club.
Yeah,
you know, half the country left.
Yeah, all the heavy taxpayers.
Yeah,
I mean, it's crazy, and we're seeing that in America. And there, you know, there's so much optimism right now. Things are just cruising.
Yeah,
but you still have this blue state, red state divide.
Right.
So we're seeing the same thing that happened to the UK with the new tax scheme. All these big taxpayers leaving. And same thing, Illinois, California, New York. I mean, California lost $40 billion in taxable revenue last year. Illinois, 8 billion.
And they can't afford that, can they?
No. So all these states are running massive deficits. Pensions aren't funded. It's a mess. And
where are people going? Because
Florida, Texas, Tennessee, all the red states.
Oh, so they're going to different states. They're not actually leaving the country.
No, not leaving the country because you got to pay tax anyway. So, and America's so big, you know, there's 50 different silos, right? And so there's no state income tax in Florida, Texas, Tennessee, Idaho. So a lot of Californians go to Texas or Idaho. A lot of New Yorkers and Illinoisans go to Tennessee, Florida. It's fantastic, and those states are hopping right now. I mean, it's just. I was in Dallas last weekend.
I love Dallas.
Everyone's happy. Yeah, they're driving big cars. They get 8 miles a gallon.
Right. You know, so they're not worried about the oil price.
No, and because a few reasons. One is the percentage of your paycheck that goes to gassing your car or you know putting petrol in the car is a lot smaller than it was in the last energy crisis, especially in the 70s. So it doesn't move the needle. And I'm not suggesting that it doesn't hurt if you're living paycheck to paycheck. But another $20, you know.
But so you're not having the same, because the problem we're having in this country now, as I'm sure you know, is that the inflation spiral is being fueled very much by the cost of energy, not just electricity, but also the gas prices at the petrol pumps and all of that. And so that's putting prices up all over the place.
And you know, and I think what people understand is it's temporary in the U.S. anyway. In places like Texas, it's still really cheap. It's still like, you know, the average is $4.50 nationally, but it's $3.50 in Texas. It's $7.50 in California because they have such lunatic, you know, Ed Miliband
green
kind
rules,
of, you know, green policy. And so, you know, there is this kind of new iron curtain in America where everybody in the red, not everybody, but people in the red states are really happy and enthusiastic. Revenues are going up for the economies are hopping in these states. So,
and that's the trick that Trump has managed to pull off, which we haven't managed to pull off because we're going in the opposite direction, it seems to me. You know, watching this morning, Rachel Reeves smiling for the first time, only because presumably she's been told to. But, you know, there's no good news coming out. I mean, we did a story yesterday about even something like Toby Carvery, which is a relatively cheap and cheerful kind of chain of sort of pubs, restaurants, shutting down. You know, every week we've got another, you know, reasonably big retail chain either in the high street or as hospitality, just shutting.
Of course, you raise your national insurance rates, you raise the minimum wage.
Yeah.
That's a job destroyer. And so, you know, I know that the Labour government won't do it, but take a page out of the U.S. playbook. Lower taxes, deregulate, and liberate the energy sector, and things are hopping.
Yeah. Or, as Donald Trump was asked the other day, you know, what should Keir Starmer do? And he wouldn't be drawn on whether he should resign or not, but he said, open up the North Sea.
Yeah.
You know, we're buying literally gas and oil from Norway, who are digging it like there, and we're here, and you're going, what's going on?
It's insane. And look, you know, in America, we had that, it was only 2 years ago, where there was a moratorium on LNG construction on the Gulf. There were no new leases for oil and gas. So Biden was trying to wreck the country by wrecking the energy sector. And then 2 years into it, when he realized, you know, they were going to lose the midterms because of higher gas prices, he sends his boy, Jake Sullivan, to Moscow to beg Putin to pump more oil. This is before the Ukraine invasion. And then he himself went to Riyadh to beg MBS to pump more oil. They both said no, by the way. So, yeah, it's such a simple formula. It worked for Trump 1.0. It worked for Reagan and Mrs. Thatcher. And JFK, a Democrat, also embraced that in the early 60s, and it worked.
Difficult to know from this side of the Atlantic because the media here is now so left-wing how Trump is doing. But I hear a lot, for example, on the I know I shouldn't listen to the BBC or bloody Times Radio, but I do. And they're always saying, oh, you know, Trump isn't as popular as he once was. Nobody wants the war in Iran. You know, they're thinking that he's getting it wrong. You know, he thought he was going to get a quick fix and it didn't happen. What's the truth of what's going on?
Things are hopping. Now, the war is not popular. Nobody wants to see young men and women at risk. My nephew's a fighter pilot on the Abraham Lincoln naval aviator. He's a stud. They're having a ball. The pilots are loving life because they're pilots and they like to fly jets. It is Top Gun. And so, but, you know, for the most part, war is never popular. And so, but he's polling at 41 in real clear average. That's higher than Biden was at this time in his term. Higher than both Bush and Obama.
For those people listening, by the way, that's plus 41, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to minus 47, which is what Starmer is.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, no, it's not great. He's at 41 approval, so it's not plus 41. But, you know, so that's down from 51. He peaked at 51. He rarely polls above 50. But the people that work and are earning higher wages, because we are loving life. Things are good. So we lost $3,000 on average in buying power in the Biden years. So wages went down, real wages, you know, inflation-adjusted wages went down 4% with Biden. They're up with Trump, but we've recovered only 1,000 of the 3,000. So people, you know, some people on the margin still feel poorer than they were 6 years ago. But it's, you know, we're getting that back. Productivity is up, real wages are up. So all the metrics that mean anything are great. GDP is it's going to hum. I mean, I'm a big fan of Scott Bessent. They are killing it in what they're doing.
Yeah,
with
funny
the
enough, I was
economy.
talking to my sister actually, who is a registered Democrat, but she was actually saying there are some clever people in the White House. You know, they're not all kind of. I mean, she's not that keen on Hegseth, but you know, and a lot of people are not that keen on Hegseth, the defense guy. But there are some very smart people in there.
So two thoughts. One is, you know, who is keen on Pete Hegseth are people in the military. And so recruiting is at an all-time high since we ended the peacetime draft back in 1971 or two. And that's great news. It was at an all-time low with Biden. Now it's an all-time high, with the exception of right after 9/11 when there was a lot of enthusiasm. The other thing is the tax refunds with the tax cuts from last year, the big beautiful bill. The refunds were higher, average of $1,200 per American. And that's a hell of a lot more than the gas price increases. So the gas price increases have only eaten into 15% of those refunds. So people are feeling great.
But also, as a concept, I mean, people will be listening to this in this country going, what do you mean a refund? What, a taxman gives you money back? But they do.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's because it's taken out of your paycheck. So, you know, you're never withholding the right perfect amount. So when you file your return and you get a refund if you paid too much. Now, so many people got refunds, so many more than usual. I forget the number, but so that's a stimulus to the economy. It's not government spending on the economy, it's people spending.
Well, it's the old Reaganomics, isn't it? Give money to people, let them spend their own money.
And it's very Thatcher-esque and very Reagan-esque.
Absolutely.
And it works, right? It's proven. It's never not
And it
worked.
always has. That's the point. And if, you know, more and more people now, there was a story in the papers today that fewer people are going out, a lot of people cancelling birthday parties, cancelling Christmas parties, cancelling, you know, what they would normally be spending money on because they just don't have it.
Yeah.
And they're not sure if they're going to be worse off even, coming up to, say, Christmas.
It's like real malaise here. I feel it. Now, even in the blue cities that are being ruined by bad governance.
Right. I was going to ask you about New York, actually.
Yeah, New York and Chicago, I mean, it feels, the news is never good because they're broke and people are leaving, as I said, you know, higher taxpayers are leaving.
Right.
I'm the only idiot that moved to Chicago in the last 5 years. But, we had family there and there's other reasons to be there.
Right.
But even in those towns, if you stay in Midtown in New York or you stay in the lakefront in Chicago, it's still feeling pretty good.
You wouldn't know that there was anything wrong. But in terms of the new mayor in New York, you know, isn't there a worry that he's going to turn it into some kind of sanctuary city and it's going to be full of migrants?
He already has. He's basically said, I'm not cooperating with ICE, which isn't new, but he's just more militant or defiant about it. Chicago's the same way.
Yeah.
And, we had a 19-year-old girl killed at Loyola University, which is on the lakefront. I mean, it's not a top 2 neighborhood, but it's still pleasant neighborhood, university area. And she was killed by an illegal migrant that had been out on no cash bail. The guy who robbed my next door neighbor on a really nice street in Chicago, he had 18 felony convictions. And he was out on the street. And so, the governance is really bad. They're doing their best to wreck the place. But places like New York and Chicago aren't wreckable. You can wreck Minneapolis because it's a small town. It's not meaningful. And you can wreck, they've tried to wreck a lot of Baltimore. That's a wreckable place.
Baltimore is wrecked.
But and it's wrecked. I mean, it used to be the 5th.
I remember going, when my kids
GDP.
were younger, they were living in Virginia, in a place out by Dulles Airport called Reston, which you probably know. And I took them once to Baltimore for the weekend. And I remember taking them, and it was kind of like The Wire before The Wire came out. And I took them to this part of North Baltimore, and there was a zoo which was just open. It was abandoned, right? And I parked the car in the car park. I was like, there's no other cars here. Walked in, there was nobody, and there was some lemurs inside the zoo in a kind of, behind some wire, but basically just doing what they want. And there was just a few animals walking around, but there was literally, it had been just like nobody was running it.
It used to be the 5th biggest city in America by GDP. And they wrecked it. And it's really a shame, but
Detroit went the same way, didn't it? Because I remember when I was there in the 80s, went to Detroit, and because all the
Big three autos,
motor car companies had kind of moved out, there was nothing. All that was left in the middle of the city was this kind of abandoned ghetto, where minorities were living, and all the white people had moved away.
50% of properties in Detroit during that time, 15 years ago maybe, 50% of properties were not paying their property tax, which means they're abandoned, basically. And so,
and we have a similar problem coming here because I was talking to there's a guy, Lee Nalallingham, that we get in who does a lot of FOI kind of requests with local councils, and he's found that there's a lot of places in Britain now where 50% of the council tax is being paid by the state, i.e. these are people who are not working, so they're on benefits, and so 50% and that's a real disaster area.
It's really crazy, and I mean, I don't know why the lessons haven't been learned that a welfare state never works, right? And you just look at Venezuela or Cuba, but you can look at Western Europe now, and the UK is 4% of these countries collectively. It's crazy numbers. It's like that. It's less than 25% of GDP, but it's 60% of the global welfare benefits, right? So it's just, the math doesn't work.
No, it really doesn't. And that, the problem is as more and more people leave the country who would have otherwise been paying tax, you've got a smaller number providing money for the bigger number. I mean, I've said it a couple of times this morning, the most ridiculous story this week was of how the Department of Work and Pensions have now issued a statement to say that if you've got more than one wife, you can get more benefits. And you're going, sorry, bigamy's illegal. What are you doing? Why are you encouraging people to get more than one wife? And which community are you pointing this at?
It points to the cultural deterioration too, and it's just it's sad. But and look, we're not immune to that in the U.S. We do have welfare states, literally California, Illinois, New York. The combination of open borders and a welfare state is a really bad mix. And so some of the open border states...
Well, the homeless problem in LA is terrible now, isn't it?
It's horrible. And so you don't see that in Texas, you don't see that in Arizona, and they're border states, and they had, real problems when Biden opened up the border. But they're not welfare states, so
Right.
you can't just cross the border and collect a paycheck like you can here in the UK and you can in California.
Right.
So, you know, it's again, it's a bit of an iron curtain between red and blue states. And I think what I've been saying recently is the UK should not only look at and take a page out of the Trump playbook or the Scott Bessent playbook, but look at what's working in America. And people are leaving the blue states, the Democrat states, and going to the Republican states because they're better run
Right.
and they're more efficient.
Yeah.
Florida's got more people.
And they keep more of their money.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In Florida, there's no state income tax.
Right.
They have more people than New York now, and yet their budget is half of the New York budget.
Wow.
So, and because the teachers unions and other public employee unions basically run those states,
Right.
they get the Democrats elected, and then they negotiate their contracts with the guys they just got
Right.
elected.
Right.
It's completely corrupt.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. And so the prospects of American sort of economic recovery are good.
Yeah.
And what happens next? Because you'll soon, I guess, enter what they call the dead zone with Trump, and you know, this will just start sort of manufacturing the next president and who that's likely to be. Is it going to be Vance? Do you think?
I think right now, I would say Marco Rubio.
Okay.
You know, Vance came out of the gates like really hot, and he was very popular, especially with the MAGA base, and Marco's just had a good 6 months or 9 months. Like that speech he did when he took Caroline Leavitt's place on the podium.
She's been amazing. By
She's
the way.
been great. I love her. She took maternity leave, so she's having another baby. So in almost a fun way, Marco decided to take her place the first day that she was out.
Yeah.
And he just crushed it.
Right.
I mean, he was really good and very patriotic.
Yeah.
And, you know, great story.
Yeah.
So he's on the roll right now.
Right.
That can change.
Yeah.
You know, it's still 2.5 years away.
Yeah. And what about Democrats? Are they stuck with
It's a mess.
The Californian governor?
Yes, for now, because he's got massive name recognition,
Yeah.
but he's a complete failure. I mean,
He's
I hope
hopeless.
he runs. I hope he wins the nomination, because all you have to do is say, look at California.
Yeah, right.
And you want
Gavin
that for
Newsom.
the rest of the country?
Yeah. Just useless. Gavin
And
useless,
And
they
then
call it. I think
Kamala's
Trump
still in
calls
the
it
mix, you know.
Is she still, really?
Kind of hinting a little bit.
Wow.
I would love to have her run again, too. I mean, there's not a lot on the bench there. And, and the real energy in the party is on the far extreme left.
Yes.
It's not Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania, who at least is perceived as a moderate. It's you know, AOC. It's the Looney Tunes in the squad. And it's Mamdani in New York. And so they're getting the attention, and they're communists, basically.
right.
And so that's not going to fly.
Not very American, is it?
No.
Really isn't.
You know, they could win California and New York, but they're not going to win the swing states.
No,
That's
of
for
course.
sure.
Well, Greg, it's great to see you.
Great to be here.
So
Mike.
much to
Great
talk
to
about.
catch up.
Brilliant. Coming up to 9:30, Pooch. Are we switching over?
Yeah, we'll switch over to UK right now.
So we've got this other thing going on where we're going to launch a channel because we've had some great success with this show.
Yeah.
Biggest breakfast show on YouTube in the UK within
Fantastic.
3 months. And we hit 20 million views this week. And so we're going to put a whole channel together because we think that, you know, the common sense point of view in this country isn't really been addressed by anybody. So we figured the BBC aren't doing it, Sky's not doing it, and even Talk and GB News are a little bit kind of, you know, middle of the road.
Yeah.
So we're gonna take the place by storm. That's the plan.
Good.
The only problem is that every time we try and switch over to the new channel, it doesn't always work. But it's all part of the fun. Yeah. Should we try? Should we do it now? Switch it over to UK Live.